Hello, and welcome to Tired Thinker, a quiet space for unhurried thoughts and tender curiosity. Tonight we're pausing with something both simple and mysterious, the life of an idea. Ideas often arrive like whispers, faint, almost unnoticed, until they begin to shape how we see, how we feel, how we move through the world. Some vanish in an instant, while others tuck themselves away, waiting patiently for years before they bloom. Much of who we are is built from these fragments of thought, though we rarely notice their quiet work. Still, they linger, stacking into meaning, weaving together the person we are and the one we're becoming. Before we wander further, I'd love to know, where are you joining from, and what time of night or day has found you here? It's in a dangerous situation, your body reacts quickly. It can choose one of three responses: fight, flight, or freeze. These reactions are automatic and help you survive in moments of stress or fear. The fight response kicks in when you feel threatened and decide to confront the danger. You might become more focused and energized. Your muscles tense, preparing to take action. In this state, people often feel a burst of strength or courage. For example, if a stranger grabs you in a dark alley, you might push them away or shout for help. Your body is ready to fight back. The flight response happens when you decide to run away from the danger. This is the body's way of avoiding harm. Your heart races, your legs feel lighter, and you're ready to move quickly. You may not even think about it, just act. For instance, if you hear someone breaking into your home, your instinct might be to run out the back door. The idea is to get away and find safety. The freeze response is a different kind of reaction. It happens when your body feels too overwhelmed or unsure about what to do. In these moments, you might feel stuck, your body feels heavy, and your mind can go blank. It's as if time slows down and you can't make a move. In some cases, this might help you avoid detection by a predator or attacker. For example, if you are caught in a dangerous situation and can't escape, staying still might keep you out of sight. These reactions don't happen because you think about them. They are built into your brain to help you survive. Whether you fight, flee, or freeze, your body is doing what it believes is best to keep you safe. Humans often act on the need for immediate gratification. This is the desire to experience pleasure right now and avoid pain. It's a basic instinct that drives many of our decisions. When we seek pleasure, we usually choose things that make us feel good in the moment. Eating comfort food, buying something new, or watching TV can provide instant satisfaction. For example, imagine a person who has had a long day at work. They might grab a piece of chocolate or watch a favorite show to relax. These actions feel good right away, giving a quick sense of relief or happiness. On the flip side, we also avoid pain as part of this drive. If something causes discomfort or stress, we try to escape it. For instance, if you have to make an important phone call that makes you anxious, you might delay it or find reasons to put it off. The discomfort of the task pushes you to avoid it for as long as possible, even if it means facing bigger problems later. This desire for quick rewards can sometimes lead to poor long-term decisions. A person might choose to skip exercise because it's easier to sit on the couch, even though regular workouts could improve health in the long run. Similarly, someone might buy an expensive item on impulse, only to regret it later because it creates financial strain. In these cases, the immediate pleasure of sitting back or spending money feels better than the discomfort of making healthier choices. Our brains are wired to seek instant rewards. Evolution gave us this drive to survive by finding food and avoiding danger. But today, it can push us to focus on what feels good now, instead of what might benefit us in the future. This pull toward immediate gratification is a powerful force that shapes many of our everyday actions. Mimicry is when we copy what others do without really thinking about it. This behavior is natural, and it starts early in life. As children, we watch the people around us and learn by copying them. It helps us fit in and understand the world. For example, a child might watch their parents and start to say the same words or make the same gestures. Over time, we continue this pattern into adulthood, often without even realizing it. One simple example of mimicry is in social settings. Imagine you're in a group of friends, and one person starts using a certain phrase or gesture. Without much thought, you might begin using the same phrase or gesture. This can happen with anything, from the way people talk to the clothes they wear. If everyone at work is wearing a certain style of clothes, you might feel the need to dress the same way, even if it doesn't really suit you. This copying isn't always bad. It can help build connections with others. When you imitate someone, they may feel more comfortable around you, thinking you share similar values or interests. However, mimicry can also lead to poor decisions. If you're constantly copying what others do without considering your own needs or values, you might end up in situations that don't align with who you really are. For instance, a person might take up a hobby or buy something just because their friends are doing it, not because they actually enjoy it. Mimicry also plays a big role in trends. When everyone starts doing something, it can seem like the right thing to do, even if you've never questioned it. Social media can make this even stronger. If you see someone popular doing something, you might want to copy it, thinking it will bring you the same success or attention. Our tendency to mimic is a powerful force. It can help us learn and fit in, but it can also lead us to follow the crowd without asking if it's the best choice for us. Territoriality is when we feel the need to protect our space and possessions. It's a natural instinct that can be seen in both people and animals. When we claim something as ours, we tend to guard it. This could be a physical space like a home, or even something as simple as a desk at work. For example, imagine you have a favorite spot on the couch at home. If someone else sits there, you might feel irritated or even annoyed. It's not just about the spot. It's about the sense of ownership and comfort it gives you. In a similar way, people often feel protective of their personal items. If someone uses your phone without asking, you might feel uneasy, even if they don't damage it. The idea of someone else having access to something you consider yours can trigger a defensive reaction. This behavior also plays out in larger spaces. At work, people often claim areas like their office, desk, or even the parking spot they use. If someone takes that spot, it might lead to conflict, even though the spot is not owned by either person. The issue is not just the space itself, but the sense of control and ownership that comes with it. We often defend what we feel is ours because it gives us a sense of security. In animals, territoriality is often about protecting resources like food, shelter, or mates. In humans, it extends beyond physical objects. People might also feel territorial about their relationships, their time, or even their social status. If someone tries to take over a friend group or challenge your role in a community, it can feel like a threat, leading to a defensive response. Territoriality is rooted in the need for control and safety. When we feel our space or possessions are being invaded, we instinctively try to protect them. This can show up in small ways, like holding onto your things, or bigger ways, like defending your home or social position. Tribalism is when people identify strongly with a group and see others as different or even as a threat. It's a way of dividing the world into us and them. This mindset can happen in many areas of life, whether it's about the town you live in, the company you work for, or even the sports team you support. For example, imagine you live in a small town. People from your town might often talk about how we are better than people from the next town over. It might seem like harmless rivalry, but the us versus them mentality can go deeper. When you see your town as superior, you may feel a sense of pride and loyalty to those who belong to it. This can create a divide between you and others, simply because they come from a different place. In sports, tribalism is especially strong. When you cheer for a team, you become part of its tribe. The fans are us, and the fans of opposing teams are them. This can lead to strong feelings, even hatred toward people who support different teams. It's not just about the game, it's about group identity. If someone insults your team, it feels like they are insulting you personally because the team represents your group. Tribalism isn't limited to small groups or sports. It can also appear in politics or culture. People might identify with certain political beliefs or cultural values and view those who disagree as outsiders. This creates a divide where conversations become more about defending us than understanding them. It can lead to misunderstandings and even conflict. Humans have an instinct to belong to a group. Tribalism comes from this need to feel connected and safe with others who share similar values or beliefs. While it can create a strong sense of community, it can also lead to dividing people into groups that don't understand each other. The idea of us versus them can shape how we see the world and how we treat people who are different from us. Dominance displays are ways people show their power or attempt to gain status over others. These actions are not always aggressive, but they are meant to communicate strength or authority. It's how individuals signal to others that they are in control or hold a higher position. For example, imagine someone walking into a room with their chest out, making eye contact with everyone, and speaking in a firm, loud voice. This is a form of dominance display. The person is not just communicating, they are showing their presence and asserting control. In a work setting, a boss might stand while everyone else sits during a meeting. This simple act signals authority and shows that they are in charge. People often use body language to display dominance. Standing tall, taking up more space, or speaking over others can all signal power. A person who constantly interrupts others or talks in a loud voice might be trying to show that their opinion matters more. This is common in social situations, like when someone dominates a conversation by speaking more than others and making sure they are heard. In more subtle ways, dominance displays can also be seen in how people dress or carry themselves. A person who wears expensive clothes or a designer watch might use these items to signal their status. The idea is that the more you show you have power, wealth, or influence, the more others will recognize it and treat you accordingly. Even small actions can be a display of dominance. When someone walks into a room and immediately takes the best seat, they are signaling that they feel entitled to it. This is not just about comfort, but about positioning themselves as more important than others. Dominance displays are a way to communicate power without needing to say anything directly. It's often a non-verbal way of seeking respect, attention, or control over a situation. Fear-based obedience happens when people follow authority because they are afraid of getting punished. This type of obedience is driven by the desire to avoid negative consequences rather than a belief in the authority itself. It's about doing what you're told because the alternative feels worse. For example, imagine a worker who follows their boss's instructions without question. They don't agree with the task or the way it's being done, but they fear the boss might punish them if they refuse. This could mean getting a bad review, losing their job, or facing criticism. The fear of these outcomes pushes them to obey, even if they don't fully understand or agree with the reason behind the action. Fear-based obedience also shows up in school settings. A student might follow a teacher's rules or complete assignments on time, simply because they are afraid of being punished with detention or a bad grade. They may not care about the work itself, but the threat of punishment forces them to comply. In some cases, fear-based obedience can be more about avoiding uncomfortable situations than direct punishment. For instance, someone might agree to go along with plans or decisions just to avoid conflict. They might say yes to a boss or a friend, even when they don't want to, because they fear the consequences of saying no. The punishment might not be physical, but it could still cause embarrassment or make the person feel bad. This kind of obedience is not based on respect for the authority or a belief in the value of the rules. It's about protecting oneself from the fear of what might happen if they don't obey. The key motivation is not loyalty or agreement, but the desire to avoid pain, punishment, or discomfort. Superstition is when people believe that certain actions or events are connected, even when there is no real link. It's the tendency to assign meaning to coincidences, creating patterns that aren't there. These beliefs are often based on fear or hope, and they can shape how people act. For example, imagine someone avoids walking under a ladder because they believe it will bring bad luck. There is no scientific reason for this, but the person may feel that it's safer to follow the rule. It might start as a simple habit, but over time they could believe that something bad will happen if they ignore it. In this case, the belief isn't based on logic, but on a feeling that something is connected, even though there is no real cause and effect relationship. Superstitions also show up in sports. Athletes may wear the same pair of socks, or use the same lucky charm before every game because they believe it helps them perform better. If they have a good game while wearing those socks, they might start to think the socks are the reason. Even though the performance is a result of practice and skill, the superstition makes the player feel that the socks have some power over the outcome. In daily life, people often assign meaning to random events. If someone breaks a mirror, they might think it will lead to 7 years of bad luck, even though breaking a mirror is just an accident. Similarly, a person who finds a penny on the ground might believe it's a sign of good fortune, even though it's just a chance event. Superstition is a way of trying to make sense of the world when things don't seem to follow clear rules. It gives people a sense of control or comfort, even if the connection between the action and the result doesn't make sense. The belief that small events are linked in some meaningful way can lead to habits and decisions that are driven more by luck or fear than by reason. Jealousy is a natural response that happens when we feel that something we value is being threatened by someone else. It often appears in relationships, whether they are romantic, friendships, or even work relationships. At its core, jealousy is about protecting what we consider important, whether it's our resources, our time, or our connections with others. For example, imagine a person feels jealous when their partner spends time with someone else. This might happen because they fear losing the emotional connection they share. The jealousy is driven by the instinct to protect the bond that has been built, as well as the resources, like love and attention, that come with it. In this case, the jealousy isn't about distrust of the other person, but more about a fear of losing something that feels irreplaceable. Jealousy can also show up when a person feels their position or status is being threatened. In a workplace, for instance, an employee might feel jealous if a colleague receives praise for a project they worked on. This feeling often arises because the person fears they might lose their position or be overlooked for future opportunities. They see the praise as a resource that's now given to someone else, and this triggers the need to protect their own standing. In friendships, jealousy can appear when one friend starts spending more time with others. The feeling isn't always about mistrusting the new person. Instead, it's about the fear of losing the attention, care, or loyalty that was once theirs. This instinct to protect relationships and resources can sometimes lead to tension or conflict, as people fight to keep what they feel is rightfully theirs. At its core, jealousy is a survival mechanism. It pushes us to guard what we have, whether it's a person's affection, a job, or a position in a group. While it can motivate protective behavior, it can also lead to unnecessary conflict or anxiety if it isn't managed carefully. Imitation of success happens when people copy what has worked for others in the hopes of achieving similar results. It's a simple strategy. If something works for one person, it might work for you too. This can be seen in many areas of life, from business to personal habits. For example, imagine a new entrepreneur who sees another business owner succeed by using a specific marketing technique, like social media ads. The entrepreneur might decide to try the same approach, thinking it will bring in customers and lead to growth. They are imitating what has already been proven to work for someone else, hoping it will lead to their own success. Imitation of success also shows up in personal development. A person might look at a successful athlete and try to follow their workout routine or diet plan. They believe that by copying the habits and lifestyle of someone who has reached a high level of success, they too can achieve similar results. This is often seen in influencers or celebrities. People follow their style, routines, or advice, thinking that doing the same thing will lead to success. In the workplace, employees may imitate the behaviors of their boss or a colleague who is recognized for being successful. If a co-worker gets promoted by taking on certain tasks or acting in a particular way, others might start mimicking those actions to improve their own chances of advancement. They are copying the behaviors that have been rewarded, believing that it will increase their own success. Imitation can be a smart approach. It saves time and effort because it builds on what is already known to work. However, it's important to realize that not all methods will work for everyone. Just because something works for one person doesn't mean it will always produce the same results for another. Still, the act of imitating success is rooted in the idea of learning from others and trying to apply those lessons in your own life. Short-term bargaining is when people exchange favors or actions with the expectation of getting something in return. This kind of reciprocity is often about immediate rewards. It's a simple give and take. If you do something for me, I'll do something for you. The goal is to strike a deal that benefits both sides, at least in the short term. For example, imagine a person at work who agrees to help a colleague with a task. They do this because they know that later, the colleague will return the favor. The exchange is straightforward. The person isn't looking for long-term cooperation, but for something in return that can be used quickly. Once the favor is done, the expectation is that the colleague will offer help in the near future, completing the cycle of give and take. In everyday life, short-term bargaining can be seen in simple situations. A friend might lend you money with the understanding that you will pay it back soon. In this case, the agreement is clear. The friend helps you now, and you help them later. It's not about building a lasting relationship, but about meeting immediate needs on both sides. This type of reciprocity is often seen in negotiation situations. If one side offers a concession, they expect the other side to offer something in return right away. For example, if a customer asks for a discount, the seller might agree to it, but only on the condition that the customer buys more products. It's a quick back-and-forth exchange designed to benefit both parties right now, without any long-term commitment. Short-term bargaining relies on the idea that people will act in their self-interest. It works best when both sides are clear about their expectations and the exchange is balanced. It's less about building trust over time and more about getting something done quickly, with each party aware of what they are giving and receiving in the moment. Hierarchy following is when people look to higher authority or rank for guidance and safety. It's the instinct to follow those in charge, because their position offers stability and protection. People trust that those above them have the knowledge or power to make decisions that keep things in order. This behavior helps to create structure, especially in situations where uncertainty or danger is present. For example, in a workplace, employees often follow the lead of their manager or boss. They do this because they believe that the manager has the experience or authority to make the right decisions. If there is a problem, employees tend to look to their boss for direction, trusting that the manager will know how to handle the situation. The safety comes from knowing that the manager has the responsibility and power to make the final call. In the military, hierarchy following is crucial. Soldiers follow orders from higher-ranking officers because they trust that these leaders have the training and authority to keep them safe. The chain of command provides clarity during complex situations, ensuring that everyone knows what role they must play. Soldiers don't question the decisions of those above them, because the system is built to protect everyone involved. Even in social groups or family dynamics, hierarchy plays a role. Children often follow the rules set by their parents, because the parents hold the authority and are expected to provide care and protection. This hierarchical structure creates a sense of security, as children trust that their parents' decisions are in their best interest. The need for hierarchy following is linked to the desire for order and safety. People feel more secure when they know there is a clear rank and that someone with authority is guiding decisions. Whether it's in work, the military, or at home, hierarchy provides a framework for behavior and reduces confusion. It offers a way for people to navigate complex situations without feeling lost or uncertain. Revenge-seeking is the natural response to a perceived injustice. When someone feels wronged or mistreated, they often want to balance the scales by getting back at the person who caused the harm. It's a way to restore a sense of fairness, though it can sometimes make the situation more complicated. For example, imagine a person who was unfairly passed over for a promotion at work. They might feel angry and hurt, believing that they deserved the promotion more than the person who got it. In response, they might try to undermine the colleague who was promoted, perhaps by spreading negative rumors or taking actions to make the colleague's position harder. This need for revenge is driven by the desire to right what they see as an unfair wrong, even if it means causing harm in return. In relationships, revenge-seeking can show up when trust is broken. If one partner cheats, the other might feel deeply hurt and decide to get back at them. This could involve actions meant to make the partner feel the same hurt or betrayal. The goal isn't just to hurt them, it's about trying to balance what feels like an unfair situation. The person who was hurt believes that getting revenge will make them feel like justice has been done. This drive for revenge can also be seen in everyday life. A person might feel slighted by someone cutting in line at the store and respond by doing the same to that person later. It's not just about getting back at the person, it's about feeling that the wrong has been acknowledged and addressed. Revenge-seeking comes from a need to restore balance when people feel wronged. It's a way to handle hurt, anger, or injustice. Though it might provide temporary relief, the act of revenge can often lead to further conflict, keeping the cycle of harm going. Still, the instinct remains rooted in a desire to make things right in the eyes of the person who feels wronged. Attachment clinging is when a person relies too much on their caregivers for support, comfort, or guidance. This behavior is common in young children, but it can also appear in adults, especially in times of stress or uncertainty. The need for closeness and security drives this dependence, but it can become overwhelming if the person cannot function without the caregiver's presence or help. For example, a A child who always looks to their parents for reassurance might struggle to make decisions or face new situations without their parents nearby. If the parents are not around, the child may feel anxious or scared. The child's comfort comes from knowing that their caregivers are there to provide safety and support, and they may become upset when they are separated from them. In adults, attachment clinging can show up in relationships. A person might rely heavily on their partner for emotional support, decision-making, or even simple daily tasks. If the partner is busy or unavailable, the person may feel lost or unable to cope. This overdependence can strain the relationship, as the caregiver or partner might feel overwhelmed by the constant need for reassurance or help. In the workplace, someone might rely too much on their boss or co-workers for direction, rather than taking initiative on their own. They may always seek approval before making decisions or wait for others to handle problems. This type of behavior shows how attachment clinging can limit independence, making the person feel incapable of managing tasks alone. Attachment clinging happens when a person feels they cannot handle situations without someone else's help. This behavior provides comfort in the short term, but it can hold people back from developing the skills and confidence they need to manage on their own. Whether in childhood or adulthood, the instinct to seek support from caregivers can become an obstacle if it prevents growth and self-reliance. Ritualistic behavior is when people create comfort by repeating certain patterns or routines. These actions may seem small or simple, but they provide a sense of control and predictability in daily life. The routine gives the person a feeling of stability, especially when things around them feel uncertain or chaotic. For example, imagine a person who always drinks coffee at the same time every morning and follows the same steps. They brew the coffee, sit down, and read the newspaper. This may seem like a minor habit, but it helps the person feel grounded and ready to start the day. The ritual provides a sense of order, even if the rest of the day is unpredictable. In some cases, ritualistic behavior is tied to personal comfort. A person might always wear a particular pair of shoes before an important event. They might believe that these shoes bring them luck or help them feel confident. The act of putting on the shoes becomes more than just a practical step. It's a way to prepare mentally for whatever is ahead. Rituals can also appear in larger, more structured settings. In sports, athletes often have pre-game routines, such as a specific warm-up or the way they tie their shoes. These rituals may help them feel ready and focused before competing. The repetition of these actions can calm nerves and provide mental reassurance that they are prepared. Even in relationships, rituals can play a role. A couple might have a special dinner every Friday night or share a particular greeting in the morning. These routines build a sense of closeness and familiarity, strengthening the bond between them. Ritualistic behavior is a way for people to create comfort and control in their lives. These actions might seem small, but they help bring stability and predictability, making it easier to navigate the challenges of everyday life. The repetition of patterns becomes a way to feel safe, calm, and centered in the midst of a world that often feels uncertain. Blame shifting is when someone avoids taking responsibility for their actions by placing the blame on someone or something else. This behavior allows the person to avoid facing the consequences of their mistakes. It's a way to protect themselves from criticism or punishment, even if they were at fault. For example, imagine a student who fails a test. Instead of admitting they didn't study enough, they blame the teacher for not explaining the material clearly or say the test was unfair. By shifting the blame, the student avoids taking responsibility for their own lack of preparation. They focus on external factors instead of acknowledging their own role in the outcome. In the workplace, blame shifting can happen when an employee makes a mistake. Rather than owning up to it, they might blame a co-worker for not providing the right information or claim that the instructions were unclear. This tactic helps them avoid the consequences of their actions and can create tension between colleagues, as others may feel unfairly blamed for something they didn't do. Blame shifting can also show up in relationships. If someone forgets an important date, like an anniversary, they might shift the blame to their partner, saying they never reminded them or that they didn't make it clear how important the date was. This tactic shifts the focus from their own forgetfulness to something their partner supposedly did or didn't do. The main goal of blame shifting is to avoid taking responsibility. It's easier for a person to point the finger at someone else than to admit their own faults or mistakes. While this might provide short-term relief, It often causes bigger problems in the long run, as it prevents people from learning from their errors and improving. It can also damage relationships and trust, as others begin to notice the pattern of avoidance. Shame avoidance is when people take actions to avoid feeling embarrassed or humiliated in front of others. The fear of being judged or criticized often leads people to act in ways that protect their image or reputation. It can affect decisions, behavior, and even the way people interact with others. For example, imagine a person who doesn't want to speak up in a meeting because they fear saying something wrong and looking foolish. They might stay quiet, even if they have valuable ideas to share, because the thought of being embarrassed is too overwhelming. The desire to avoid shame keeps them from participating, even though it could hold them back in the long run. In social situations, shame avoidance can lead to people agreeing with others even if they don't fully agree themselves. A person might laugh at a joke they don't find funny or agree with an opinion they don't share, simply to avoid standing out or being judged. This can make people feel disconnected from their true feelings, but they act this way to keep from feeling like they don't fit in. Shame avoidance is also seen in how people manage their appearance or behavior. Someone might wear certain clothes or follow trends because they want to avoid being judged for looking different. They might spend time crafting a specific image of themselves, all in the hope that they will not face any ridicule or negative attention from others. In relationships, shame avoidance can keep people from being open and honest. A person may hide their mistakes or struggles because they don't want to be seen as weak or imperfect. Instead of asking for help, they might pretend everything is fine to avoid the embarrassment of showing vulnerability. The need to avoid shame is a strong motivator in how people behave. It can lead to decisions based on fear rather than what is best for them. While this might protect them from feeling embarrassed in the short term, it can also prevent growth and genuine connection with others. Conformity is when a person changes their beliefs, actions, or opinions to fit in with the group they are part of. The pressure to be like everyone else often leads people to act in ways that align with the group's views, even if those views don't match their own. This need to belong can overshadow a person's sense of self and cause them to lose sight of their own identity. For example, imagine a teenager who starts smoking because their friends do it, even though they never thought it was a good idea. The teenager may feel the need to fit in and be accepted, so they change their behavior to align with the group. Over time, they might even begin to see smoking as normal, even if they originally didn't want to try it. This is an example of how group influence can shape decisions that aren't necessarily in line with a person's true feelings. In the workplace, peer conformity can lead employees to follow the actions or opinions of colleagues rather than thinking independently. If everyone at work agrees on a certain approach to a project, a person might go along with it, even if they think there is a better way. The desire to avoid conflict or stand out can cause them to suppress their own thoughts, leading to groupthink. This type of conformity can limit creativity and critical thinking because people don't feel comfortable voicing differing opinions. Conformity is also common in social situations. If a person is part of a group that follows certain trends, they might adopt those same trends, even if they don't truly care about them. This could be anything from fashion choices to opinions on current events. The fear of being judged or left out can make a person go along with what others are doing, even if it doesn't match their own beliefs. The desire to fit in with others can sometimes cloud a person's ability to make decisions based on their own values. Conformity leads them to prioritize group approval over individual authenticity, often shaping their identity around what others expect. Hero worship is when people elevate certain figures to an almost divine level, seeing them as saviors or perfect examples to follow. This often happens with celebrities, leaders, or public figures who are admired for their abilities, achievements, or influence. People may see these figures as having extraordinary qualities and may place them on a pedestal, ignoring their flaws or mistakes. For example, imagine a person who idolizes a famous athlete. They follow every game, buy the athlete's merchandise, and try to live by their example. This admiration can go beyond just enjoying their performance in sports. The person may start to believe that the athlete has all the answers to life's challenges and that their opinions are superior. The athlete, in this case, becomes more than just a person. They become a symbol of success and perfection. In politics, hero worship can appear when a leader is viewed as the solution to all problems. People might treat their every word as law, trusting them without question. They believe that this leader can do no wrong, and that following their direction will lead to the best outcomes. This mindset can be dangerous because it shuts down critical thinking and the ability to see that even those in power can make mistakes. Hero worship also happens in everyday life. A student may look up to a teacher or mentor as someone who has all the knowledge and wisdom. They might hang on to every piece of advice given, believing it's the only path to success. This can prevent them from thinking independently or exploring other ideas that could be just as valuable. Hero worship creates a strong attachment to the idea of a perfect figure, but it often overlooks the reality that everyone has flaws. While it's natural to admire others, it's important to remember that no one is infallible. Putting someone on a pedestal can limit growth, as it makes it harder to see the value in other perspectives or actions. Scapegoating is when people blame someone or something else for their own problems. Instead of taking responsibility for the issues they face, they project those problems onto outsiders or groups that are easy to target. This is a way of avoiding the discomfort of looking inward and confronting the real causes of their struggles. For example, imagine a company that is struggling with poor sales. Instead of looking at internal factors like poor marketing strategies or weak leadership, the management might blame a particular team or department for the failure. This shifts the blame from the real issues, allowing those in charge to avoid facing their own mistakes. By focusing on an external group, they can maintain their image and avoid dealing with the actual causes. Scapegoating also happens in communities. If a neighborhood faces a rise in crime, some people might start blaming outsiders who are not from the area, even though the real causes of the crime could be much more complex. They project their fear and frustration onto a group that they perceive as different or threatening. This can lead to a sense of division and hostility, without addressing the actual factors that contribute to the problem. In personal relationships, scapegoating can also appear. If someone is upset about their own life or emotions, they might take it out on someone close to them. For example, a parent might blame their child for stress at work, even though the real source of stress is the parent's own challenges. By projecting their frustration onto someone else, they avoid dealing with their own feelings and responsibilities. Scapegoating creates an unfair situation where the real issues remain unaddressed. It might offer short-term relief from blame, but it only deepens the problem. In the long run, projecting problems onto others prevents real solutions from being found and can damage relationships or trust between people. Politeness codes are the social rules we follow to interact smoothly with others. These codes are built around using manners, like saying please, thank you, or excuse me, to make communication easier and more respectful. They help people avoid conflict and make social situations more comfortable. While these manners can seem small, they have a big impact on how we relate to each other. For example, imagine two people working together on a project. One person might ask, "Could you please help me with this task?" Instead of just saying, "Help me," the use of please softens the request, making it sound more polite and considerate. By following this politeness code, both people can avoid tension and keep the conversation friendly. In a different setting, like a family dinner, politeness codes can help prevent awkward moments. A person might say, "Would you mind passing the salt?" rather than just reaching across the table. This small act of using polite words shows respect and makes the interaction smoother, even though the request itself is simple. By following these codes, people can keep the mood pleasant and ensure that everyone feels comfortable. Politeness codes also help in professional environments. For instance, when a worker greets their boss with a polite, "Good morning, how are you?" it shows respect and creates a positive tone for the day. Using proper manners in the workplace can make it easier to collaborate, build relationships, and avoid misunderstandings. Even in online communication, politeness codes are important. A simple thank you in an email can make a big difference in how a message is received. It adds warmth to what might otherwise be a dry or business-like interaction. These codes are a way to ease social interactions and build positive connections. While manners might seem trivial, they play a key role in keeping communication respectful, smooth, and pleasant for everyone involved. Flattery is when someone gives compliments to influence or gain favor from another person. It's not just about offering kind words. It's about making the other person feel good, often to get something in return. The goal is to create a positive impression and build rapport, which can lead to the person being more willing to help or support you. For example, imagine a worker who compliments their boss on a recent successful project. They might say, "You handled that meeting really well. The way you explained the plan made everything so clear." While the compliment is genuine, the worker might also be trying to make the boss feel good so that they stand out in the boss's eyes. The flattery helps to build a connection and could lead to more opportunities or recognition. In social situations, flattery can be used to gain favor or approval. A person might compliment a friend's appearance or their choice of clothing, saying, "That dress looks amazing on you," knowing it will make the friend feel appreciated. The compliment is meant to strengthen the relationship and possibly influence the friend's future actions, such as inviting them to more events or sharing something of value. Flattery also plays a role in sales and negotiations. A salesperson might compliment a potential customer by saying, "You have such great taste. This product is perfect for someone like you." The goal here is to make the customer feel special, which can increase the chances of making a sale. By making the customer feel good, the salesperson can subtly guide them toward making a purchase. In all these situations, flattery works as a tool for influence. While it can be genuine, it often carries an underlying motive to create a favorable connection or to get something in return. It's about making someone feel valued, which in turn can lead to a stronger relationship or opportunity for personal gain. Manipulation is when someone influences another person's decisions or actions for their own benefit, often without the other person realizing it. It's a way of guiding someone to do what you want, but doing so in a way that feels subtle and indirect. The goal is to steer the situation in your favor while keeping up the appearance of fairness or cooperation. For example, imagine a person who wants to get a raise at work. Instead of directly asking for it, they might start complimenting their boss often, saying things like, "You always know how to manage things so well. I've learned so much from you." This compliment seems harmless, but it can make the boss feel appreciated and might influence them to see the worker in a more favorable light, possibly leading to the raise the worker wants. The manipulation is in the subtlety. The worker isn't directly asking for anything, but is planting a seed of admiration that can be used to their advantage. In relationships, manipulation can also appear. If someone wants their partner to take on more chores at home, they might say, "I'm so overwhelmed with everything I'm doing. I don't know how I'd manage without your support." This statement isn't directly asking for help, but it encourages the partner to step in and offer assistance out of guilt or sympathy. The person isn't openly requesting help, but they are nudging their partner toward doing what they want. Manipulation can also happen in negotiations. A person might offer a small favor, like agreeing to a minor request, with the hope that the other person will return the favor later when something more important is at stake. By doing this, they subtly create a sense of obligation or reciprocity without stating it directly. Manipulation works by influencing others' feelings, perceptions, or actions without their full awareness. It's about finding ways to guide decisions and actions in a direction that benefits you, often using indirect tactics that don't appear forceful or demanding. Virtue signaling is when someone shows off their moral values or beliefs, not because they truly care about them, but to gain social approval or enhance their status. It's about making sure others see them as good or righteous. People may publicly support causes or express certain opinions to appear virtuous, even if their actions don't fully match their words. For example, a person might post on social media about supporting environmental causes, sharing links and images of recycling or conservation efforts. While the post might seem like an honest expression of concern for the planet, the person may not actually make any meaningful changes in their own life, like reducing waste or supporting sustainable businesses. The goal is not about truly making a difference, but about showing others that they are aligned with a popular and admirable cause. This makes them appear more moral or caring than they may actually be. In another scenario, someone at work might publicly praise diversity initiatives or advocate for equal rights. However, when it comes to promoting people within the company, they might ignore those values in favor of personal connections or biases. The focus here is on being seen as someone who supports fairness, not actually following through with those beliefs when it matters. Virtue signaling also appears in casual conversations. A person might constantly talk about how important it is to be kind or charitable, but when it comes time to offer help to someone in need, they might find reasons to avoid doing so. By mentioning how much they value kindness, they aim to build a reputation of being good, even though their actions don't back it up. The main goal of virtue signaling is to create a positive image for oneself in the eyes of others. It's not about living by the values being displayed, but about gaining recognition for holding those values, often for social or professional benefit. Gossiping is when people talk about others, often sharing personal or private information that might not be their business to discuss. It can seem like harmless chatter, but it often serves as a way for people to bond with others over shared stories or opinions. The act of gossiping can create a sense of connection between people who exchange these stories, as it provides a way to engage and feel included in social circles. For example, imagine two co-workers chatting in the break room about another colleague's recent behavior. They might talk about how the colleague acted during a meeting, or something personal they learned about them. Even though the conversation might not be directly related to work, it helps the two co-workers bond over a shared narrative. By discussing someone else's life, they create a temporary connection using the other person's story as a tool to strengthen their own relationship. In friendships, gossiping often occurs when people share news or rumors about others, especially when it involves someone they both know. The conversation might not always be negative, but the focus is on someone else's life or actions. It's a way to exchange information and stay connected with others, even though the topics discussed might not always be important or meaningful in the grand scheme of things. Gossiping can also serve as a form of social bonding in groups. When a group of people shares stories about a mutual acquaintance, it can reinforce group identity. The group feels closer because they are sharing knowledge that others don't have, creating a sense of exclusivity. This can be especially true in larger social settings, where gossip acts as a way for people to feel involved in the community. While gossiping may seem like a way to connect with others, it often comes at the cost of someone else's privacy or reputation. Despite this, the need to bond and belong can make gossip an appealing way for people to engage with each other, even if it's based on shared narratives that might not always be kind or accurate. Status seeking is the drive to accumulate prestige or recognition in order to improve one's social position. People naturally want to be seen as important or respected by others, and they often work toward achieving this through their actions, appearance, or achievements. This desire to gain status can influence decisions, from the clothes they wear to the career they pursue. For example, imagine someone who buys expensive clothes or accessories simply to signal wealth or taste, even if they don't particularly care about the items themselves. The goal is to be seen in a certain light by others. By wearing high-end brands, the person hopes to gain admiration or respect. This is not about the actual value of the items, but about how they are perceived in the eyes of others. It's a way to project success and affluence, hoping others will view them as someone worth admiring. In the workplace, status seeking can be seen when people strive for positions that bring power or recognition. A person might work long hours or volunteer for high-profile projects, not just because they enjoy the work, but because the position will increase their social standing. They might aim for a leadership role or seek out positions that come with titles, hoping to build respect from colleagues and superiors. The title or position itself becomes a way to show others that they have earned a certain level of prestige. In social groups, people might also seek status by aligning themselves with those who are seen as important or influential. If a person spends time with a popular group or supports certain causes that are widely respected, they may gain status by association. The more they are seen with those who have higher social standing, the more their own status can rise. Status seeking can shape a person's choices and actions, influencing what they value and how they present themselves to the world. While it can push people to achieve and grow, it can also lead to decisions based more on external validation than on personal satisfaction or growth. Altruism, when it's conditional, is when people help others with the expectation that they will receive something in return. While the help appears selfless on the surface, the person giving it is usually hoping for some benefit, whether it's a favor, recognition, or something more tangible. The key difference between this type of altruism and true selflessness is the expectation of a reward. For example, imagine someone who offers to help a friend move into a new apartment. They might provide their time and effort, but in the back of their mind, they are hoping that the friend will return the favor when they need help in the future. The action of helping isn't purely out of kindness. It's driven by the belief that they will get something in return down the line. In a workplace setting, Conditional altruism can show up when an employee helps a colleague with a difficult project. While the employee may seem generous, they are often hoping that the colleague will remember this help and offer support when the employee needs it. In some cases, this can be a strategic move to build goodwill or strengthen relationships for career advancement. The help provided is not just out of the goodness of the person's heart, but with the understanding that the favor might come back to them in some form later. In social circles, conditional altruism can also play a role. A person might offer to host a gathering, but they expect their guests to invite them to future events or offer similar hospitality. The act of helping, whether it's making a meal or planning a party, becomes tied to an unspoken understanding that the gesture will be returned. Conditional altruism isn't about pure generosity, it's about creating a sense of mutual benefit. While it can still lead to positive interactions and cooperation, it's driven by the idea that helping others will ultimately help the giver in return. Shame-based compliance is when someone follows rules or meets expectations because they are afraid of what others might think of them if they don't. The fear of being judged or seen in a negative light motivates them to act in ways that maintain their reputation, even if they don't really want to. This behavior often comes from a desire to avoid feeling ashamed or being criticized by others. For example, imagine a student who does all their homework and participates in class discussions, not because they enjoy learning, but because they want to be seen as a good student. If they don't follow the rules, they worry about being labeled lazy or irresponsible. The pressure to keep up a certain image drives their actions, even if it doesn't align with their true feelings about the work. In a workplace, an employee might agree to take on extra tasks or work long hours, not because they are eager to help, but because they fear being seen as uncommitted. They want to maintain a reputation of being a hard worker and worry that refusing to help might cause their colleagues or bosses to think less of them. The desire to avoid the shame of being seen as lazy or uninterested pushes them to comply with expectations, even if it affects their own well-being. In relationships, shame-based compliance can show up when someone agrees to do things they don't want to do just to avoid disappointing others. A person might attend a social event or agree to help a friend with something, not out of desire, but because they don't want to be judged for not being supportive or caring. The fear of being labeled as selfish or uncaring shapes their actions. Shame-based compliance can make people act in ways that don't reflect their true desires or values. The drive to maintain a positive image or avoid negative judgment often leads to decisions based more on what others think than on what is best for them. Social comparison is when people measure their own worth by comparing themselves to others. It's a natural instinct that helps people understand where they stand in a group, but it can also shape how they view their own value. The comparisons often focus on things like success, appearance, or social standing, and they can influence how people feel about themselves. For example, imagine someone who looks at their friend's success at work and starts to feel insecure about their own job. They might wonder why they haven't achieved the same level of success and start measuring their worth based on their friend's career. This comparison can lead to feelings of inadequacy or a desire to improve, even though both people might be on different paths or have different strengths. In relationships, social comparison can also appear. A person might compare their relationship to a friend's and feel like they're not doing enough to keep their partner happy. They may see their friend's relationship as stronger or more exciting and wonder if they are falling short. The act of comparing relationships can create dissatisfaction, even if the relationship is healthy. On social media, social comparison is even more common. People often post highlights of their lives, like vacations or achievements, and others may compare their own lives to these posts. Seeing someone's perfect picture can make another person feel like their own life is less exciting or successful. This can lead to jealousy or self-doubt, as people measure their lives against an idealized version of someone else's. Social comparison can push people to improve, but it can also create unnecessary pressure. When someone measures their worth constantly against others, they might overlook their own unique qualities and accomplishments. The drive to keep up with others can sometimes lead to a loss of personal identity and a focus on what others have rather than what one truly wants. In-group signaling is when people use certain behaviors, language, or styles to show they belong to a particular group. It's a way of marking membership and reinforcing connections within a social circle. This can happen through the use of slang, specific ways of dressing, or rituals that only members of the group understand. For example, in a high school, a group of students might all use certain slang words or phrases that set them apart from others. These words are not just for communication, they're a signal to everyone else that the students belong to this particular group. If someone new tries to join and doesn't use the same words, they might be seen as an outsider. The language used by the group acts as a barrier to entry, signaling to others who is in and who is not. Similarly, a group of friends might have a specific way of dressing, like wearing band t-shirts or matching colors. This shared style helps create a sense of unity and signals to others that they are part of the same group. When someone dresses in a similar way, it shows they understand the group's values and can be accepted as one of them. Rituals also play a role in in-group signaling. A group of co-workers might have a tradition of meeting for coffee every Friday morning. This routine isn't just about the coffee, it's a ritual that strengthens their bond and marks their belonging to the team. People outside the group might not be invited, and by excluding others from these rituals, the group reinforces its own identity. In-group signaling is about more than just fitting in. It's a way to show loyalty to a group and to define who is part of it. Whether it's through language, appearance, or shared practices, these signals help people feel connected and establish their place in the social structure. The stronger the signals, the more they define the group and create boundaries with outsiders. Attention-seeking is when someone acts in a way that draws attention to themselves, often to get validation or approval from others. It can happen in many forms, from loud behavior to sharing personal details on social media. The goal is to feel noticed, recognized, and valued by others. For example, imagine a person who frequently posts pictures or updates on social media about their daily life. While some of the posts may be about ordinary events, the frequency and nature of the posts suggest that the person is seeking attention. By sharing personal moments, they are looking for likes, comments, and validation from others, hoping to feel appreciated and important in the eyes of their followers. In a social setting, attention-seeking can be seen when someone constantly interrupts conversations or tells exaggerated stories to make themselves the center of attention. They may not necessarily be trying to harm anyone, but their goal is to be noticed and validated by others in the group. For instance, a person might talk about their accomplishments or struggles in a way that draws sympathy or admiration. By doing so, they hope to feel valued or important in the eyes of others. Attention-seeking can also happen in more subtle ways. In a workplace, someone might constantly ask for feedback or compliments, even when they don't need them. They might seek praise for tasks that are part of their normal responsibilities. The aim here is not just to do the job, but to be noticed and recognized for their efforts, even when the work doesn't stand out. People who seek attention are often looking for a sense of self-worth or reassurance. They might not feel secure in themselves, so they rely on the validation of others to feel good about who they are. While seeking attention can sometimes help build connections with others, it can also feel draining or insincere if it becomes too frequent or obvious. It's a way of trying to fill a need for recognition and acceptance. Exclusionary behavior is when people intentionally create outgroups by leaving others out of a group or activity. It's a way of establishing who belongs and who doesn't. By excluding others, the group strengthens its sense of identity and reinforces social boundaries. This behavior often happens in social settings, schools, workplaces, or any situation where people form groups. For example, in a workplace, a group of employees might regularly go out for lunch together. They may invite some co-workers, but leave out others without any clear reason. Over time, the employees who are excluded may feel left out or disconnected from the group. The ones who are invited may feel a stronger bond, simply because they are part of a smaller, more exclusive circle. The group's identity becomes defined by who is included and who is not. In a school setting, exclusionary behavior can show up in how groups of friends interact. A clique might form, and those outside the group may be left out of social events or activities. This creates a division where those in the group feel superior or more important than those outside. For example, a student who isn't part of the popular group might not be invited to the same parties or included in conversations, creating a clear divide between the in-group and the out-group. Exclusionary behavior can also be seen in online communities. People might create spaces where only those who meet certain criteria are allowed to join or participate. For instance, a person might participate in a specific hobby group but decide not to include someone who doesn't share the same level of knowledge or interest. In doing so, they create a division, making the outgroup feel unwelcome or unworthy of participation. The act of creating outgroups serves as a way to establish social order and a sense of belonging. While it can strengthen connections within the group, it also fosters division and makes those outside the group feel isolated or inferior. This behavior is often subtle but can have a lasting impact on people's feelings of acceptance and belonging. Echoing authority is when someone repeats or supports the ideas or commands of those in power to reinforce their authority. By echoing the words or actions of those in charge, people strengthen the power narrative and ensure that the authority figure's position remains unchallenged. This behavior helps maintain control and order, as others are more likely to follow when they hear a consistent message. For example, in a corporate setting, a manager might announce a new policy, and then other employees, especially those in leadership roles, repeat the same message to their teams. They might say things like, "The boss has said, this is the new way forward, so we need to follow it." By echoing the manager's words, they reinforce the authority of the person in charge and make it clear that the new policy must be followed, whether or not the employees agree with it. This keeps the power structure intact and ensures the message doesn't lose strength as it passes through the organization. In politics, echoing authority happens when one leader or figurehead's message is repeated by supporters or other politicians. When a politician makes a strong statement, others in their party or with similar views often repeat it, even if they don't add anything new to the conversation. This creates a unified front, making the authority figure's position seem more valid and widely accepted. The more people repeat the message, the more likely others are to believe it and support it. In everyday life, echoing authority can also be seen in family dynamics. A child might listen to the instructions given by one parent, but then hear the same message from the other parent, which reinforces the idea that the first parent's decision is final. By echoing the authority, the second parent helps maintain consistency and supports the power of the first. Echoing authority is a way to strengthen power and influence. By repeating the words of those in control, people help ensure that their messages are heard and followed, creating a more stable and unified structure. Public masking is when a person acts differently in social settings compared to their private life. They wear a mask in public, presenting a version of themselves that fits social expectations or norms, while their true feelings or behaviors may be hidden from others. This shift in behavior often happens to avoid judgment or to maintain a certain image in the eyes of others. For example, at work, an employee might act friendly, professional, and outgoing in front of co-workers, but in private, they might prefer solitude or feel frustrated with their job. The behavior they show at work is shaped by the need to fit in or appear competent, while their private life is where they express their true feelings or desires. The public mask helps them navigate the social expectations of the workplace, but it doesn't fully reflect who they are behind closed doors. In social situations, public masking can also occur when someone behaves differently around a group of friends compared to when they are alone. A person might laugh along with a joke they don't find funny just to avoid being seen as out of place. They act in a way that aligns with the group's dynamic, but once they're alone, they may express their true feelings or opinions, which could be quite different. This behavior often stems from the desire to belong or avoid conflict, even if it means hiding their real thoughts. Family dynamics can also involve public masking. A person might act as if everything is fine in front of their family, presenting a calm and happy image, while in private, they might be dealing with stress, sadness, or frustration. They wear the mask of being content or in control when in reality they may be struggling. Public masking is a way of managing how others perceive us, ensuring we fit in or meet expectations. While it can help avoid conflict or maintain harmony, it can also prevent people from being authentic, leading them to feel disconnected from their true selves. Gift giving as leverage happens when someone gives a gift with the expectation that the recipient will feel obligated to return the favor or fulfill a future request. The gift isn't given purely out of generosity, it's used as a way to create a sense of indebtedness. binding the recipient to the giver in some way. This form of gift-giving creates a subtle, unspoken agreement where the giver hopes the recipient will owe them something in return. For example, imagine a colleague gives another coworker an expensive gift for their birthday, even though they don't have a close relationship. The gift seems generous, but the giver might expect that the coworker will be more likely to support their ideas in the future or help them with a project. The gift creates a feeling of obligation, and the coworker may feel compelled to return the favor in some way, even if they didn't ask for or expect the gift. In family situations, gift-giving as leverage can also appear. A parent might give their child a significant gift, such as a car or expensive item, hoping that the child will appreciate it and act in ways that align with the parent's wishes. The parent may expect their child to meet certain expectations, such as behaving a certain way or following specific rules, in return for the gift. This sets up a dynamic where the gift is not just an act of kindness, but also a way to ensure control or influence over the child's behavior. Gift-giving as leverage can also be seen in business dealings. A business partner might offer a favor or gift, like a free service or product, to a potential client with the hope of securing their business in the future. The gift sets the stage for an expectation of reciprocity, where the client feels compelled to return the favor by agreeing to a deal or supporting the business in some way. This form of gift-giving operates on the principle of creating a bond through obligation. It's not always about goodwill, it's about gaining something in return, using the gift as a way to secure influence or control over future actions. Passive aggression is when someone resists or expresses frustration indirectly instead of confronting an issue directly. Instead of openly stating what bothers them, the person shows their resistance through actions, comments, or behavior that might seem neutral or harmless at first, but actually reflect their dissatisfaction or anger. For example, imagine a worker who is asked to take on extra tasks. Instead of saying they are overwhelmed or don't want to do it, they might agree but then complete the task poorly or late. They are not openly refusing, but their actions show their frustration. The goal is not to address the problem directly, but to express displeasure in a way that doesn't lead to immediate confrontation. In relationships, passive-aggressive behavior often comes out in subtle comments or actions. A partner might forget an important date, like an anniversary, then make a comment like, "I guess it wasn't really important to you anyway." This indirect approach avoids a direct argument but still gets the point across that they are hurt or upset. Instead of openly communicating their feelings, they use silence or subtle remarks to express their discontent. Another example can be seen in family situations. A person might agree to help with a household chore, but then do it in a way that is sloppy or inefficient. They aren't refusing the task, but they are showing their lack of enthusiasm or willingness to participate. This indirect resistance can often lead to tension, as the person doesn't openly express their dissatisfaction, but still conveys it through their actions. Passive aggression allows people to express their anger or frustration without dealing with the discomfort of direct confrontation. However, this behavior can cause misunderstandings and build resentment because it avoids honest communication. Instead of resolving the issue, it often leads to more confusion and a cycle of unresolved tension. Self-handicapping is when a person makes excuses or sets up obstacles for themselves before they even start a task, usually to protect their ego in case they fail. By creating a reason for potential failure in advance, they can avoid the embarrassment of not succeeding. It's a way to shield their self-esteem and avoid taking full responsibility if things don't go well. For example, imagine a student who has an important exam coming up. Instead of preparing thoroughly, they might say, "I haven't had time to study because of other commitments," or "I never do well on exams like this anyway." By saying this, they've set up an excuse for a possible poor performance. If they fail, they can blame the lack of preparation or the nature of the exam rather than their own effort. This protects their ego by giving them a reason for their failure that isn't tied to their ability or effort. In a work setting, self-handicapping can appear when an employee takes on a challenging project but openly doubts their skills beforehand. They might say things like, "I'm not sure I can handle this. I've never worked on something this complicated," which gives them a way out if they don't do well. If the project doesn't turn out as expected, they can say it was too difficult or that they were unprepared, avoiding a direct hit to their confidence. Self-handicapping also happens in social situations. A person might avoid taking on a leadership role in a group by saying, "I'm not a good leader, so I shouldn't take charge." This way, if the group fails to meet its goals, they don't feel personally responsible for the outcome. They can protect themselves from feelings of inadequacy by creating a reason why they wouldn't succeed in the first place. This behavior can help people avoid the pain of failure, but it also prevents them from fully trying or growing. By setting up excuses in advance, they limit their own potential for success. Triangulation is when someone brings a third party into a conflict between two people. Instead of directly addressing the issue with the person involved, they involve someone else, which can make the situation more complicated and harder to resolve. The goal is usually to manipulate the situation, making it feel like there's more than one perspective, or shifting the blame away from the person causing the conflict. For example, imagine two co-workers having a disagreement over how to complete a project. Instead of talking directly to each other about the problem, one of them might talk to a third colleague saying, "I don't think she understands the project. She's making things harder for me." By involving someone else, the first person is not only getting validation for their side, but also influencing how the third person might view the situation. This turns a two-person issue into a three-person problem, complicating the dynamics and making it harder to address the root cause. In family relationships, triangulation can also happen. If one family member is having a problem with another, they might go to a third relative to discuss it, often without directly confronting the person they're upset with. For example, a child might complain to one parent about the other, saying, "Dad never listens to me." This creates tension between the parents, even though the issue could have been resolved if the child spoke directly to the parent involved. The third person in this case might take sides, further fueling the conflict and distancing the two primary people involved from working through their problem together. Triangulation often serves as a way to avoid direct confrontation. Instead of facing the issue head-on, a person uses a third party to avoid responsibility or to manipulate the situation to their advantage. It can make resolving conflicts more difficult, as it involves more people and distracts from the real problem that needs to be addressed. Popularity chasing is when someone focuses more on being liked or accepted by others than on being true to themselves. Instead of acting based on their own beliefs or values, they adjust their behavior to fit what they think will make them popular or well-liked. The desire for approval can drive people to make choices that don't align with who they really are, just to be part of a group or to gain attention. For example, imagine a teenager who starts dressing a certain way or using specific slang just because they want to fit in with a popular group at school. They might not particularly like the style or the way the group behaves, but they believe that by copying them, they'll be accepted. The teenager sacrifices their own preferences to be seen as part of the in crowd. In a workplace, popularity chasing can show up when someone tries to please their boss or co-workers by agreeing with everything they say, even when they have a different opinion. Instead of speaking up with their own ideas, they go along with what's popular or expected, hoping to be seen as agreeable and easy to work with. This might get them attention or even short-term praise, but it doesn't allow them to stand out based on their true abilities or beliefs. In social situations, popularity chasing can lead to a person saying things they don't really believe or making decisions they aren't comfortable with, just to avoid being left out. For example, someone might laugh at a joke they don't find funny or agree with something they don't support, simply to feel included. Over time, this can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction or even confusion, as the person starts to lose touch with their own values and preferences. The need to be liked is a powerful force, but when it leads to prioritizing popularity over authenticity, it can cause a person to lose sight of who they really are. Chasing approval can prevent them from forming genuine connections and living in a way that reflects their true self. Guilt tripping is when someone tries to control another person by making them feel responsible for something bad happening, even if they aren't really to blame. It's a way of manipulating emotions, using feelings of guilt to pressure someone into doing what the other person wants. The goal is to make the person feel bad enough that they give in, even if the request isn't fair or reasonable. For example, imagine a parent asking their child to help with chores, but instead of just asking, they say, "I've done so much for you, and all I'm asking is for a little help. I guess I'm just not important enough for you to help me." This statement makes the child feel guilty for not offering help without directly saying they should. The parent is using guilt to push the child into doing something they might not want to do, even though the child didn't initially agree to it. In a friendship, one person might say, "After everything I've done for you, I can't believe you're not supporting me now." By bringing up past favors or sacrifices, they make the other person feel as though they owe them something, even if there's no real obligation. The friend is then put in a position where they feel guilty for not being supportive, which could force them into agreeing to something they don't want to do. In the workplace, guilt tripping can also be used. A manager might say, "I've been covering for you so much lately, and I hope you'll step up when I need it." The manager uses their past help as a way to make the employee feel guilty, pushing them to take on extra work or responsibility that they hadn't agreed to. The employee might feel as though they must say yes, even if they are already overloaded. Guilt tripping is a form of emotional manipulation that puts pressure on someone to act against their own desires or interests. It can create a sense of obligation or responsibility, even when the situation doesn't warrant it. The person doing the guilt tripping uses the other's sense of guilt to control or influence their actions. Delayed gratification is when someone chooses to give up a reward or pleasure now in order to gain something more valuable or rewarding later. It's about making decisions that prioritize long-term benefits over short-term satisfaction. This ability to wait and resist the temptation for immediate rewards is key to achieving bigger goals in life. For example, a student might choose to spend weeks studying for an important exam instead of going out with friends or playing video games. The immediate pleasure of having fun is sacrificed in favor of the long-term goal of performing well on the exam. While the student might feel disappointed in the short term, the payoff comes later when they achieve a good grade, which could lead to more opportunities or success down the line. In personal finances, delayed gratification shows up when someone saves money instead of spending it right away. For instance, a person might choose to put money into a retirement fund instead of buying a new car. The immediate desire for a new car is put aside in favor of building financial security for the future. This sacrifice can be difficult, but it can provide a much more significant benefit in the long term. In health and fitness, delayed gratification can be seen when a person sticks to a workout routine and a healthy diet, even when it's tempting to eat junk food or skip the gym. The immediate pleasure of indulging in unhealthy habits is sacrificed for the long-term benefit of being healthier and feeling better. It might take weeks or months to see visible results, but the effort leads to lasting improvements in physical health and well-being. Delayed gratification requires patience and discipline, as it often means saying no to things that feel good right now for the sake of achieving something better in the future. It's not always easy, but it is often the key to success in many areas of life, whether it's education, finances, or personal growth. Abstract thinking is the ability to think about ideas and concepts that aren't tied to specific physical objects. It's about seeing patterns, understanding broader concepts, and using metaphors to explain complex ideas, rather than focusing on what is directly in front of you. Abstract thinking helps you look at the bigger picture and make connections between different pieces of information. For example, a person might think about a tree not just as something to climb or a source of shade, but as a symbol of growth or life. They can see the tree as part of a larger idea about nature and the environment. This kind of thinking goes beyond the obvious and explores deeper meanings, asking questions like why the tree exists or what it represents. In problem solving, abstract thinking helps people come up with creative solutions. Imagine someone trying to solve a work-related issue, like improving team communication. Instead of just focusing on the immediate issue, they might think about the concept of communication itself. They might look for patterns in how teams communicate, think about past experiences, or use metaphors to describe how ideas flow between people. This kind of thinking allows them to move away from simple fixes and come up with more thoughtful, long-term solutions. Abstract thinking is also useful in understanding complex topics. For example, in science, understanding the concept of gravity isn't just about noticing that things fall. It's about grasping the bigger idea that objects are attracted to each other and using that understanding to explain a range of natural phenomena. The ability to connect these ideas allows someone to see how smaller details fit into larger theories. In daily life, abstract thinking can help people make sense of their emotions or relationships. A person might use a metaphor, like saying our relationship is like a garden, to explain how it needs care and attention to grow. This thinking style helps people understand complex situations in simpler, more relatable terms. It's about seeing beyond the surface to understand underlying truths and connections. Moral reasoning is the process of deciding what is right and what is wrong. It involves thinking about different actions, their consequences, and the values that guide decisions. When faced with a situation, people use moral reasoning to choose the best course of action based on their beliefs about fairness, honesty, and responsibility. For example, imagine someone finds a wallet on the ground with money inside. The decision to keep the money or return the wallet to its owner requires moral reasoning. The person might weigh the idea of taking the money for themselves against the principle of honesty. They might think, if I take the money, it's wrong because it's not mine, and decide to return the wallet. This process involves considering the potential harm or good their actions will cause and deciding what aligns with their values. In a workplace, moral reasoning can appear when an employee faces a dilemma. For instance, if a coworker takes credit for someone else's work, the employee might feel the need to speak up. They could weigh the consequences of reporting the coworker, perhaps causing conflict against the need to be honest and fair. The decision may involve asking themselves, what is the right thing to do in this situation? Their choice reflects their sense of justice and respect for others' contributions. In relationships, moral reasoning helps guide decisions about trust and respect. For example, if a person is tempted to lie about something to avoid hurting their partner's feelings, they must decide if protecting their partner's feelings is more important than being honest. This often leads to weighing the impact of their actions. Will the truth cause harm? Is it more important to be truthful, even if it's difficult? Moral reasoning helps people decide what aligns best with their sense of integrity and fairness. Moral reasoning shapes how people navigate the world and interact with others. It's a careful balance between personal values and the impact their choices have on those around them. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It involves stepping outside of your own perspective and trying to see the world through someone else's eyes, instead of focusing only on your own experiences. Empathy allows you to connect with how others feel and respond with care. For example, imagine a friend who has just lost a loved one. Instead of simply offering advice or trying to fix the situation, a person showing empathy might sit with their friend, listen to their pain, and express understanding by saying, "I can't imagine how hard this must be for you." In this situation, the person isn't just focusing on their own emotions or the discomfort of the situation. They are trying to understand what the friend is going through and responding in a way that acknowledges their feelings. Empathy also shows up in the workplace. If a colleague is struggling with a project, instead of just pointing out what they did wrong, an empathetic person might ask how they can help or express understanding of the challenges they're facing. They might say, "I see you're overwhelmed. Is there anything I can do to make this easier for you?" This response isn't about fixing the problem for the person, but about offering support and understanding in the moment. In family life, empathy can be seen when a parent listens to a child's frustrations instead of dismissing them. If a child is upset about a tough day at school, the parent might say, "I understand that you had a rough time today. It's okay to feel upset." The parent takes time to understand the child's feelings rather than just telling them to move on or toughen up. This kind of response helps build a deeper connection and shows the child that their feelings matter. Empathy helps people respond to others in a compassionate and supportive way. It's about taking the time to understand someone else's emotions and experiences, even if they are different from your own. This ability to connect beyond yourself strengthens relationships and builds trust. Gaslighting is when someone manipulates another person's perception of reality, making them doubt their own memory, feelings, or sense of what's true. It's a form of psychological manipulation that causes the person being gaslighted to feel confused and uncertain about what is actually happening. The manipulator creates a false reality, making the victim question their own thoughts and actions. For example, imagine a person is repeatedly told by their partner that they are forgetful or imagining things, even when the partner is the one who has been careless or dishonest. If the victim says, "I remember you told me you would be home by 6, the partner might respond, "You're just being paranoid. I never said that." Over time, the victim starts to second-guess their memory, and may even begin to believe the manipulator's version of events. In the workplace, gaslighting can happen when a boss or colleague tries to make another person feel incompetent. If an employee is given unclear instructions and then their work is criticized for not meeting expectations, the boss might say, "I told you how to do it. You must have misunderstood." The employee, unsure of their own understanding, begins to question their abilities, even though the confusion came from the lack of clear communication. Gaslighting can also occur in friendships. One person may twist another's words or actions to make them feel guilty or responsible for things they didn't do. For instance, if someone calls out their friend for being rude, the friend might say, "You're always overreacting. I didn't mean it that way. You're just too sensitive." The victim may begin to believe that their feelings are the problem, even though they are simply responding to hurtful behavior. Gaslighting distorts reality and undermines the victim's confidence in themselves. It creates a dynamic where the person being manipulated becomes increasingly unsure of what is true, making it harder for them to trust their own judgment. It's a harmful tactic used to gain control by causing confusion and self-doubt. Self-deception is when someone believes lies or truths that are comforting, even though they may not reflect reality. It's a way of protecting oneself from uncomfortable feelings or facts. By convincing themselves of something that feels better or easier to accept, they avoid dealing with difficult truths. This helps them avoid pain, fear, or guilt, but it also keeps them from facing what's real. For example, a person who is in a relationship that isn't working might tell themselves, "Things will get better if I just try harder." Instead of facing the truth that the relationship might be unhealthy or broken, they convince themselves that things will improve with more effort. The lie feels better because it gives them hope, but it prevents them from addressing the deeper issues or making a change. In a work situation, someone might convince themselves that they're doing well at their job, even when they're not meeting expectations. They might tell themselves, "I'll get a promotion eventually, it just takes time," even though their performance reviews aren't improving. The person is comforting themselves with the idea that their situation is better than it really is, avoiding the discomfort of facing their performance or making necessary changes. In health, self-deception can happen when someone ignores signs of illness. A person might feel unwell but tell themselves, "It's nothing serious, I'm just tired," even though they might need medical attention. They avoid the fear or anxiety that might come with facing a potential health problem by believing a lie that makes them feel safe. Self-deception is often a way to avoid emotional discomfort, but it can also hold people back from personal growth or improvement. By believing comforting lies, a person may avoid taking action, solving problems, or making necessary changes. In the end, self-deception keeps them from facing reality and moving forward. Projection is when someone attributes their own feelings, thoughts, or traits to others. Instead of acknowledging these qualities in themselves, they assume that others have the same thoughts or intentions. This often happens because it's easier to see negative traits in others than to face them in ourselves. The act of projection helps avoid uncomfortable self-reflection by shifting focus away from one's own issues. For example, imagine someone who feels insecure about their abilities, but instead of confronting their own doubts, they might accuse others of being insecure. They might say, "I can tell they don't know what they're doing," even though they're projecting their own fears onto someone else. The insecurity they feel inside is redirected to another person, making them feel less vulnerable. In relationships, projection can be seen when one person accuses the other of being jealous or controlling, even though they are the one feeling those emotions. If someone feels possessive, they might claim, "You're always checking up on me," even though the behavior is coming from their own desire for control. Instead of recognizing their own feelings of jealousy, they accuse the other person of having them. Projection can also happen in the workplace. If a person feels threatened by a colleague's success, they might start accusing that colleague of being overly ambitious or manipulative. The person doesn't want to acknowledge their own envy or insecurity, so they project these feelings onto the other person. They shift the focus from their own feelings to the traits they think others have, avoiding the discomfort of facing their own emotions. Projection allows people to avoid dealing with their own uncomfortable feelings or traits by placing them on others. It helps protect the person from self-awareness and keeps them from confronting what's really going on inside. However, it can also lead to misunderstandings and conflict, because it distorts how people see others and themselves. Compartmentalization is when someone separates different parts of their life or mind to avoid dealing with contradictions. It allows a person to hold conflicting ideas, emotions, or behaviors without them interfering with each other. By placing these contradictions in separate compartments, a person can avoid the stress or discomfort of having to reconcile them. For example, a person might be deeply committed to living a healthy lifestyle, exercising regularly, and eating well. However, they may also smoke cigarettes, knowing it's harmful to their health. Instead of facing the contradiction between these two behaviors, they compartmentalize them. They think of smoking as something separate from their overall health choices, allowing them to continue both without feeling guilty or conflicted. In the workplace, a person might compartmentalize their job performance and their personal relationships. They could be friendly with colleagues, but if they need to make tough decisions that affect others, they can switch off the personal side and focus solely on what's best for the company. This allows them to remain professional, even if those decisions negatively affect their co-workers. The emotional side of the situation is kept separate from their work duties, allowing them to act without the burden of personal feelings. In relationships, someone might compartmentalize their actions or behavior. For instance, a person who is kind and loving to their partner at home might act distant or cold at work. They separate these two aspects of their personality, allowing them to switch between different roles without the two overlapping. This helps them avoid the emotional discomfort of having to be consistent or face the contradictions in their behavior. Compartmentalization helps people manage conflicting aspects of their lives without feeling overwhelmed. It allows them to continue functioning without addressing the contradictions head-on. However, over time, it can lead to a sense of disconnection, as the person may struggle to integrate all parts of themselves into a cohesive whole. Cognitive dissonance resolution happens when people justify or explain away inconsistencies in their thoughts or behaviors. When their actions don't match their beliefs, it creates discomfort. To ease this discomfort, they find ways to make the two things fit together, often by changing their perception of one or both. This helps them maintain a sense of internal consistency, even if the reasoning isn't entirely rational. For example, imagine someone who values environmental conservation but continues to drive a gas-guzzling car. The contradiction between their values and actions creates discomfort. To resolve this, they might tell themselves, "I don't drive that much, so it's not a big deal," or "I'll switch to an electric car someday." This reasoning helps them feel better about their choice, even though it doesn't fully align with their beliefs about the environment. In the workplace, a person who prides themselves on honesty might stretch the truth in a business negotiation. The conflict between their self-image and their actions causes discomfort. To resolve it, they might justify the lie by thinking, "Everyone does this. It's just part of the job," or "I'm doing it for the greater good of the company." This justification allows them to feel less conflicted about their behavior and maintain their sense of integrity, even though their actions contradict it. In relationships, cognitive dissonance resolution can appear when someone stays in a relationship that they know is unhealthy. They might justify staying by thinking, "It's not that bad, we have some good moments," or "I don't want to start over." This justification allows them to resolve the discomfort caused by recognizing the relationship isn't good for them, while still holding on to the belief that it's worth keeping. People use cognitive dissonance resolution to protect their self-image and avoid facing uncomfortable truths. By justifying inconsistencies in their thoughts and actions, they can reduce the inner tension and feel more aligned with their choices, even if those choices don't always reflect their values. Strategic planning is the process of making decisions today that will help achieve long-term goals in the future. It involves looking ahead and understanding what needs to be done now to reach a desired outcome later. This planning requires foresight and careful thought, as it's not just about addressing immediate needs, but setting a course for success over time. For example, a company that wants to expand its reach in 5 years might begin by researching new markets, developing new products, or building partnerships today. These early steps are part of a long-term strategy that will position the company to succeed in the future. The business leaders need to anticipate what resources, skills, and market trends will be needed and make plans that align with these expectations. In personal life, strategic planning can show up when someone sets a goal to buy a house in a few years. They may start by saving money, improving their credit score, or looking at different neighborhoods. Each of these small actions helps them get closer to their long-term goal. It's about understanding that the future requires preparation today, and that small, consistent actions can build up to something bigger. In education, strategic planning can be seen when a student chooses a major but aligns with their long-term career goals. They might take courses or gain experience through internships that will be valuable later in their job search. Instead of simply focusing on getting through school, the student thinks about how each step will bring them closer to their desired career. Strategic planning is about more than just having a vision. It's about taking purposeful steps today that will lead to success later. It requires looking beyond short-term problems and making decisions that will pay off in the long run. Whether in business, personal goals, or education, it's a process that ensures efforts are aligned with future aspirations. Negotiation is the process of discussing terms or conditions to reach an agreement that benefits both parties. It's about finding a middle ground where each side gets something they want. Instead of focusing on winning at the expense of the other party, a successful negotiation looks for trade-offs that satisfy both sides, creating a situation where everyone feels they've gained something valuable. For example, imagine two companies discussing a partnership. One company wants access to a larger customer base, while the other wants to increase the quality of its product through the partnership. Instead of one company just pushing its needs forward, both companies would negotiate, agreeing on terms that give each one something they value. The first company might agree to help market the other company's products, while the second company might offer exclusive access to a higher quality version of its product. This way, both companies benefit and reach a solution that satisfies their key needs. In personal situations, negotiation happens all the time, even in simple decisions. Suppose two roommates need to divide the household chores. One prefers to clean the kitchen, but the other would rather take care of the living room. Instead of arguing, they discuss their preferences and come to an agreement that works for both. One might agree to clean the kitchen more often, in exchange for less time spent on vacuuming. By understanding each other's needs and finding a fair trade-off, they both feel their preferences are respected. In business deals, negotiation is crucial. If a customer is buying a car, they might want a better price, while the salesperson aims to get a higher sale price. A negotiation might result in the customer getting a discount on the car, while the salesperson offers added features or services at no extra cost. Both sides feel they've reached a good deal. Negotiation isn't just about reaching an agreement, it's about understanding the other side's needs and finding a solution that works for both. By focusing on trade-offs and mutual benefit, it builds stronger relationships and more sustainable agreements. Subtext reading is the skill of understanding the hidden meanings or underlying messages in what people say or do. It's about looking beyond the surface and picking up on what is not directly stated. Often, people use subtext to convey thoughts or feelings they don't want to say outright, or to signal something indirectly. For example, imagine someone says, "It's fine, I'll just do it myself." On the surface, it seems like they are okay with handling the task. However, reading the subtext suggests frustration or resentment. The person isn't just making a neutral statement, they might be expressing dissatisfaction or feeling unsupported. The words themselves don't convey the full meaning. The tone and context help reveal what's really being communicated. In a business meeting, someone might say, "I'm sure you've all thought about this, but let me add my 2 cents." The words might sound polite, but the subtext could be an attempt to assert authority or show superiority. By carefully considering the language used and the context in which it's spoken, you can understand that the speaker may be trying to take control of the conversation without directly challenging others. In personal relationships, subtext reading is key to understanding unspoken emotions. If a partner says, "You're not mad at me, are you?" after a disagreement, they might be trying to get reassurance or avoid the discomfort of a direct confrontation. The real question isn't about being mad, it's about needing comfort or avoiding conflict. Understanding the subtext helps one respond to the deeper concern behind the words. Subtext reading relies on paying attention to how something is said, the body language involved, and the broader situation. It's an important skill for navigating complex interactions, as it helps uncover the true message behind what is being expressed. By reading the subtext, you can gain a fuller understanding of the dynamics at play and respond more thoughtfully. Reputation management is the process of shaping how others perceive you. It's about controlling the narrative and presenting yourself in a way that aligns with how you want to be seen by others. Whether in a professional setting or personal life, reputation management involves consistently managing your actions, words, and online presence to maintain a positive image. For example, a person who is trying to build a strong reputation at work might consistently meet deadlines, contribute ideas during meetings, and maintain professionalism in all communications. They might also go out of their way to help colleagues or take on extra responsibility when needed. Over time, these actions build a reputation for being reliable and competent, which is exactly how they want to be seen by others. In social media, reputation management can involve carefully curating what is shared online. A person might regularly post thoughtful content that aligns with their values or professional interests, while avoiding controversial topics that might damage their image. By sharing content that reflects their personality and values, they can manage how others perceive them on these platforms. In relationships, reputation management can appear when someone is careful to maintain a reputation for kindness or trustworthiness. They might consistently show up for friends in times of need or make sure to follow through on promises. By doing so, they build a reputation as someone dependable, and others are more likely to rely on them. Reputation management also involves addressing mistakes or misunderstandings when they arise. If someone is mistakenly labeled as unprofessional or unreliable, they might take steps to correct this by communicating openly and demonstrating the opposite through their actions. They could acknowledge the misunderstanding and then work to prove through consistent behavior that they are trustworthy. Managing one's reputation is about creating a consistent, reliable image that aligns with personal or professional goals. By making thoughtful decisions and being mindful of how actions are perceived, a person can effectively shape how others see them, building a positive reputation over time. Authority mimicry is when someone imitates the actions, behaviors, or style of a leader to gain power or influence. By copying the way respected figures present themselves, people try to position themselves as capable or authoritative, even if they don't hold the same position. This imitation often helps build a sense of trust or respect, making others more likely to follow or listen to them. For example, imagine a junior employee at work who starts adopting the same communication style as the boss. If the boss tends to speak confidently in meetings, the employee might begin to use similar language, tone, and body language. By doing this, they hope to appear more authoritative and gain the respect of colleagues. They are not necessarily in a leadership role yet, but by mimicking the boss's behavior, they are trying to be seen as a leader themselves. In social groups, authority mimicry can also play a role. A person might observe how a popular member of the group behaves, whether it's their mannerisms, the way they speak, or how they make decisions. By adopting similar traits, the person hopes to gain the same social influence. This can happen in school, at work, or even in friendships, where someone tries to position themselves as a figure of authority by copying those who already have power within the group. In politics, a person might mimic the communication style of a respected leader to connect with voters or build influence. If a political figure is known for being calm and persuasive during debates, someone else might adopt that same calm demeanor and structure their arguments similarly, hoping to come across as just as convincing or trustworthy. Authority mimicry is a strategy to gain influence by reflecting the qualities that people associate with power, whether it's adopting a leader's style, behavior, or communication techniques. The goal is to be seen as capable and deserving of respect, even if the person is not yet in a position of true authority. By copying those in power, individuals try to elevate themselves and gain influence over others. Selective memory is when someone recalls certain events or details from their past while forgetting or downplaying others. This process often happens unconsciously, as people focus on memories that align with their current beliefs, emotions, or self-image. It's a way of editing personal history to make it more comfortable or consistent with how they want to be seen. For example, imagine a person who had a difficult childhood but chooses to only remember the happy moments, like family vacations or special celebrations. They might overlook or minimize the challenges, such as family arguments or financial struggles. By focusing on the positive memories, they reshape their past in a way that makes them feel better about who they are today. This selective remembering helps protect their self-esteem, but it may not fully reflect the reality of their experiences. In a work setting, selective memory can happen when someone looks back on a past project. They might remember only their successes and forget the mistakes they made. This allows them to present themselves in a more positive light, especially when discussing their work history with others. If asked about a challenging task, they might say, "That project went smoothly, even if it involved significant setbacks." By focusing on the parts they handled well, they create a version of events that suits their image. Selective memory can also appear in relationships. A person might remember only the good times with a friend or partner, ignoring past arguments or conflicts. This helps them maintain a positive view of the relationship, even if it had its ups and downs. They may forget the times they were hurt or disappointed, focusing only on the moments that reaffirm their connection. People use selective memory to make their personal stories more manageable or reassuring. By editing their past, they create a narrative that supports their current identity or emotional needs. While this can offer comfort, it may also prevent them from fully understanding or addressing the complexities of their history. Moral licensing is when someone excuses bad behavior after doing something good. It's the idea that a person feels they've earned the right to act poorly because they've already done something positive. This can lead people to make decisions that don't align with their usual values, simply because they believe they have earned it through their previous good actions. For example, imagine someone who sticks to a healthy diet all week, eating balanced meals and exercising. After a week of healthy choices, they might think, "I've been so good, I deserve a treat." This leads them to eat a large dessert or skip their workout. The good behavior earlier in the week creates a sense of permission to act in a way that contradicts their usual habits. They feel justified because they've already done something positive. In the workplace, moral licensing can happen when an employee goes above and beyond on a project, staying late and working extra hours to meet a deadline. Afterward, they might think, "I've worked hard, so I can take a long lunch today or leave early." This gives them a sense of entitlement, even though leaving early may not align with the company's expectations or their usual work ethic. The good work they've done earlier creates a belief that it's okay to relax their standards for a short time. In relationships, moral licensing can appear when someone does something kind, like buying a gift for their partner. Later, they might feel justified in being short or less considerate because they believe their previous gesture makes up for it. "I did something nice for them, so it's okay if I'm not as caring today," they might think. This mindset allows them to excuse behavior that doesn't align with their usual character. Moral licensing is a way people justify inconsistency in their actions. They use their good deeds as a reason to indulge in bad behavior, thinking their positive actions balance out their flaws. While it may feel like a reward, it can ultimately lead to a lack of balance or accountability in how they behave. Learned helplessness is when a person comes to believe they have no control over their situation. Even when they do, this belief develops after experiencing repeated failures or difficulties, leading them to feel powerless. As a result, they stop trying to change their circumstances, thinking that no matter what they do, nothing will improve. For example, imagine a student who consistently fails tests, despite putting in effort. After a while, they may start to believe that no amount of studying will help them succeed. They might stop studying altogether, thinking that their actions don't make a difference. Even if the student could improve with different study habits, they no longer try because they feel stuck in their failure. In the workplace, learned helplessness can occur when an employee faces repeated setbacks, like being overlooked for promotions or struggling with a difficult project. After multiple attempts with no success, they might begin to believe that their efforts won't change anything. This could lead them to stop taking initiative or even stop caring about their work. They no longer try to improve, assuming that nothing will change, no matter what they do. In relationships, learned helplessness can appear when someone has repeatedly tried to resolve an issue but never sees any positive change. They might stop voicing their concerns or making an effort to improve the relationship because they believe nothing will ever get better. This feeling of powerlessness can lead them to accept things as they are, even if they are unhappy, because they no longer believe they have the ability to make a difference. Learned helplessness often comes from repeated experiences of failure or lack of control. Once someone starts to believe their efforts are pointless, they stop trying, even if they still have the ability to change things. It creates a cycle of inaction, where the person feels trapped by their own belief that they cannot escape their situation. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when a person's beliefs or expectations about something cause them to act in ways that make those beliefs come true. It happens when we believe something will happen, and our actions, even unconsciously, influence the outcome to align with those expectations. In other words, our beliefs shape our behavior, which then leads to the very result we expected. For example, imagine a student who believes they are bad at math. Because of this belief, they might avoid studying or feel anxious during math tests. This lack of effort or confidence then leads to poor performance, confirming their belief that they are bad at math. The belief that they can't succeed affects their actions and creates the outcome they expected. In the workplace, someone might think they aren't good enough for a promotion. Because of this belief, they might not put in as much effort or hesitate to speak up in meetings, thinking they won't be heard. Their lack of initiative or confidence then makes it less likely they will be considered for the promotion, confirming their initial belief that they weren't good enough. In relationships, a person who believes others will always let them down might start to act distant or untrusting. They might push people away, not giving them a chance to prove they can be reliable. This behavior could cause others to pull back, creating a distance in the relationship that confirms the person's belief that people can't be trusted. The person's actions, based on their belief, lead to the very outcome they feared. A self-fulfilling prophecy shows how our expectations can shape reality. When we expect something to happen, we often behave in ways that encourage that outcome. The belief itself can influence the way we act, which then influences how things turn out, creating a cycle where expectations become reality. Risk calculation is the process of evaluating the costs and benefits of a decision in order to make a rational choice. It involves weighing the potential outcomes, both positive and negative, and determining if the rewards are worth the risks involved. By carefully considering the possible consequences, a person can make more informed decisions. For example, imagine a person deciding whether to invest money in the stock market. They will first look at the potential benefits, such as the possibility of earning a return on their investment. Then they'll consider the risks, like the chance of losing money if the market goes down. By calculating these factors, they can decide if the potential reward is worth the risk they are taking on. In everyday life, risk calculation shows up when deciding whether to take on a new job. A person might weigh the benefits, such as a higher salary or more career growth opportunities, against the risks, such as the possibility of a longer commute, less job security, or less time for family. By looking at both sides, they can make a more rational decision about whether the job change is the right move. In relationships, risk calculation can occur when deciding whether to confront someone about a sensitive issue. The person might weigh the potential benefit of resolving the issue against the risk of creating tension or conflict. If they believe the benefits of addressing the problem outweigh the risks, they may decide to speak up. On the other hand, if they think the risk of damaging the relationship is too high, they might choose to stay silent. Risk calculation is a way of making decisions that are grounded in logic rather than emotion. By assessing the costs and benefits clearly, people can avoid hasty choices and feel more confident in their decisions. It's about making sure that the potential rewards justify the risks involved. Game theory behavior is when someone makes decisions based on how they believe others will act. It's about anticipating the moves of others and adjusting your own actions accordingly. This strategy is often used when the outcome depends on the decisions of more than one person, and understanding their potential choices is key to determining the best course of action. For example, imagine two businesses competing for market share. One company might choose to lower its prices to attract more customers, but it will make this decision after predicting how the other company will respond. If the competitor also lowers prices, it could lead to a price war that harms both businesses. However, if one company raises prices while the other keeps theirs low, it might attract customers willing to pay a premium. The businesses use game theory to anticipate each other's moves and adjust their strategies accordingly. In a simpler situation, imagine two friends deciding whether to go to a movie. If one friend prefers a comedy and the other prefers an action film, each will make their decision based on what they think the other will choose. If one believes the other will give in to their preference, they might act accordingly. If they think the other might get upset, they might try to compromise. Each person is acting based on the expectation of the other's behavior. In politics, game theory can be used to understand how countries negotiate with each other. For example, one country might decide to impose trade tariffs, but only if it believes that the other country will retaliate in a way that benefits its own economy. Both sides look at the potential outcomes of each move and choose their strategies accordingly, aiming for the best result based on the likely actions of others. Game theory behavior is about understanding that your choices are often influenced by the choices of others. It's a strategic way of thinking that takes into account not just your own goals, but the potential reactions of those around you. This approach helps people make more informed decisions when they know their success depends on the actions of others. Charisma engineering is the practice of balancing warmth and competence to create a strong, likable presence. It's about being both approachable and capable, allowing others to feel comfortable around you while respecting your skills and abilities. This balance is crucial because people are drawn to those who make them feel valued, yet they also want to trust that the person is able to deliver results. For example, imagine a manager who leads a team. If the manager is warm and personable, taking the time to listen to team members and show concern for their well-being, they will create a trusting and positive work environment. At the same time, if the manager demonstrates competence by solving problems efficiently and making sound decisions, the team will respect them and feel confident in their leadership. The combination of being caring and skilled makes the manager more effective at leading. In a social setting, charisma engineering can be seen in how someone interacts with others. If a person is always friendly, smiling, and engaging, they create an atmosphere where people feel at ease. But if they also demonstrate knowledge or skills in the conversation, whether through interesting insights or expertise in a particular area, others are more likely to see them as both likable and capable. The person's charm comes from this combination of being emotionally available while also offering value in terms of knowledge or skill. In business, when a salesperson works with a potential client, they need to strike a balance between showing warmth and being competent. If they are too warm, they may seem insincere or not knowledgeable. If they focus too much on competence and facts, they might come off as cold or uninterested in the client's needs. The ideal approach is to listen and understand the client's needs while demonstrating a deep knowledge of the product or service, making them feel both understood and confident in the solution being offered. Charisma engineering helps individuals become more effective in both personal and professional settings by showing they are both caring and skilled. When people sense this balance, they are more likely to connect, trust, and respect the person. Storytelling persuasion is the art of shaping reality by using a narrative to influence how people think, feel, or act. By telling a compelling story, you can engage people's emotions, make complex ideas easier to understand, and create connections that motivate them to take action. The power of a well-told story lies in its ability to make an idea more relatable and memorable. For example, imagine a non-profit organization trying to raise money for a cause. Instead of simply listing statistics about the issue, they might share the story of one person whose life was changed because of the organization's work. By focusing on a personal experience, the story appeals to the emotions of the audience, making them feel more connected to the cause. This personal narrative helps the audience see the real impact of their donation and motivates them to contribute. In business, a company might use storytelling persuasion in marketing campaigns. Instead of just promoting a product's features, they might tell a story about how the product improved the life of someone like the consumer. For instance, a fitness brand could showcase a story about an individual who transformed their health by using their product. This narrative creates a connection with potential customers, showing them not just what the product does but how it could benefit them personally. In politics, storytelling is often used to persuade voters. A candidate might share a story about their own struggles, showing how their experiences align with the concerns of the public. By presenting themselves through a personal narrative, they build empathy and trust, making their platform feel more genuine and relatable. This approach can be more persuasive than simply listing policies or promises. Storytelling persuasion works because it taps into human nature. People connect with stories on a deeper level than they do with facts alone. A well-crafted narrative can shift perspectives, inspire action, and make people see the world in a new way. By shaping reality through storytelling, you can influence how others perceive a situation and guide their decisions. Machiavellian strategy is a method of manipulation that involves careful planning and foresight. It's about using others to achieve your own goals, often by playing on their emotions or weaknesses, while making sure your actions serve your long-term interests. This approach isn't about short-term gains, but about shaping situations and relationships in ways that provide an advantage down the line. For example, in a workplace, someone using a Machiavellian strategy might quietly build alliances with influential people while making sure their own contributions are noticed. They might act like a team player on the surface, but behind the scenes, they're setting themselves up for a future promotion by ensuring they have the right people on their side. They may also plant ideas with colleagues, making them believe the ideas came from them, which increases their influence without overtly forcing any decisions. In personal relationships, Machiavellian behavior can show up when someone manipulates situations to make others feel indebted to them. For instance, a person might go out of their way to help a friend in need, only to remind them later of the favor, knowing the friend will feel obligated to return it. This tactic relies on foresight, as they anticipate how the friend will react and how they can use that reaction to their advantage in the future. In politics, a leader might use Machiavellian strategy by subtly undermining opponents while publicly presenting themselves as above reproach. They might engage in backdoor deals or form temporary alliances with rivals, knowing that these moves will weaken their competition in the long term. The key is that these actions are done with a sense of planning and calculation, with an eye on future outcomes rather than immediate rewards. Machiavellian strategy often involves subtlety and indirect tactics. It's about gaining control and influence in ways that don't always appear obvious to others. Those who use it are not just reacting to the present, but are anticipating future moves, knowing that manipulation today can shape the situation tomorrow. Diplomacy is the skill of managing conflicting interests and finding solutions that satisfy everyone involved. It requires a balanced approach, where you carefully consider each side's needs and work toward an agreement that minimizes tension while fostering cooperation. Diplomacy isn't about winning at the expense of others. It's about navigating differences and building consensus. For example, in a business negotiation, two companies may have conflicting goals. One company wants to lower prices, while the other is focused on maintaining quality. A diplomat in this situation would listen to both sides, understand their priorities, and propose a solution that might involve adjusting the pricing structure while keeping quality intact. The key is finding a way to meet both companies' needs without creating a situation where one feels like they've lost out. In international relations, diplomacy often involves delicate negotiations between countries with different political interests. For instance, when countries come together to discuss trade agreements, each country has its own priorities, such as protecting local industries or securing access to resources. A diplomat's role is to balance these competing needs, helping the countries reach an agreement that benefits all parties without causing significant harm to any one group. The process may require compromise and flexibility, but the goal is to create a stable and cooperative relationship. Diplomacy can also be seen in everyday life. If two friends are having a disagreement over how to spend their weekend together, one may want to go hiking while the other prefers to stay in. Rather than allowing the disagreement to grow into an argument, diplomacy would involve discussing both preferences and finding a solution that incorporates both activities, perhaps by hiking in the morning and spending the afternoon relaxing. This way, both friends feel their interests have been considered, and the conflict is resolved without resentment. In all of these situations, diplomacy is about understanding different perspectives, managing conflicting interests, and finding solutions that allow all parties to move forward in a positive direction. It requires patience, listening, and the ability to compromise without sacrificing core values. Tribal bridging is the act of uniting groups that have competing interests or differing viewpoints. It involves finding common ground and fostering cooperation between groups that may not initially see eye to eye. This process often requires patience, empathy, and a willingness to understand the perspectives of others in order to create mutual respect and alignment. For example, imagine two departments in a company, each with their own goals and priorities. One department might be focused on efficiency and cutting costs, while the other is more concerned with innovation and long-term growth. A leader who practices tribal bridging would bring both teams together, highlighting the value of each department's objectives. They might suggest ways the departments can collaborate, such as finding cost-effective ways to implement new ideas, ensuring both groups feel heard and valued. The result is a solution that satisfies both sides, allowing them to work together rather than in opposition. In a community setting, tribal bridging can take place when two social groups with different cultural or political backgrounds are in conflict. A community leader might work to bring these groups together by emphasizing shared values or goals. For example, they could organize events where both groups have the opportunity to share their traditions or concerns. By fostering dialogue and mutual understanding, the leader helps create a sense of unity, even in the face of deep differences. This approach can lead to collaboration on projects that benefit the entire community, like improving local infrastructure or supporting a common cause. In personal relationships, tribal bridging can also appear when a person tries to reconcile conflicting opinions between friends or family members. If two people are at odds over a situation, someone who bridges the gap might step in to explain each person's point of view and suggest a compromise that respects both sides. The goal is not to take sides, but to find a way for everyone to feel heard and respected. Tribal bridging is about breaking down barriers and encouraging cooperation, even when groups have different interests. By focusing on what unites rather than divides, it helps create a stronger sense of community and shared purpose. Mentorship and teaching are about guiding others, helping them grow, and influencing their development. When you take on a mentorship role, you not only pass on knowledge, but also provide support and encouragement, shaping the way others approach challenges and opportunities. It's a process of leading by example and offering advice that helps someone improve their skills and decision-making over time. For example, imagine a senior employee at a company mentoring a younger colleague. The mentor doesn't just tell the mentee what to do, but instead guides them through decision-making processes, offering insights based on experience. They might say, "Here's how I handled a similar situation," or "This is something I wish I had known earlier." Over time, the mentee starts to adopt those same approaches, not just following instructions, but learning to think critically and solve problems in a similar way. The mentor's influence shapes the mentee's future actions and decisions, building their competence and confidence. In a classroom, teaching is a form of mentorship as well. A teacher doesn't simply relay information, they help students understand complex ideas and inspire them to think more deeply. For example, a teacher might explain a difficult math concept and then challenge the students to apply it in different scenarios, encouraging them to experiment and learn from their mistakes. Through this process, the teacher not only shares knowledge, but also builds the student's ability to think critically and independently. The teacher's influence extends beyond the subject matter, shaping how the students approach problems and learning in general. In personal relationships, mentorship can happen when one person takes the time to guide someone else. This could be a parent helping their child navigate decisions about their future, or a friend offering advice based on past experiences. By sharing knowledge and providing guidance, the mentor helps the other person build confidence and make better choices. Mentorship and teaching involve more than just giving instructions. They require a balance of patience, support, and influence, helping others grow in their skills and confidence, while also shaping their decision-making and mindset. Through guidance, mentors and teachers not only share knowledge, but also leave a lasting impact on those they teach. Collective identity crafting is the process of shaping a shared sense of belonging and purpose within a group. It's about creating a common identity that members can rally around, one that reflects their values, goals, and beliefs. This identity binds the group together and provides a clear sense of what they stand for, making it easier to work toward a common cause. For example, imagine a group of activists coming together to address climate change. They don't just work individually, they create a collective identity that is built around the shared belief in protecting the environment. Through events, campaigns, and social media, they build a narrative that frames climate action as essential and urgent. This shared identity gives them the power to organize and take collective action, because everyone feels connected to the same cause. In a business, collective identity crafting can be seen when a company creates a strong brand culture. Employees aren't just working for a paycheck, they're part of something bigger, a company that stands for innovation, quality, or customer satisfaction. By promoting this shared identity through internal communication and public messaging, the company builds a movement where employees feel proud of their work and are motivated to contribute to the company's success. In communities, collective identity crafting can happen when people come together to solve local issues. If a group of neighbors works to improve safety or beautify their neighborhood, they create a shared identity as people who care about where they live. This sense of connection can lead to stronger collaboration, making it easier to push for changes and improvements in the area. When people craft a collective identity, they are not just creating a label for the group, but a shared understanding of what they represent and how they want to be seen. This unity provides the strength to move forward, whether in social, political, or organizational settings. By focusing on common values and goals, they build a group that can work together effectively and make a real impact. Reputation arbitrage is when a person or group leverages the prestige or credibility of others to improve their own standing. Instead of building their own reputation from the ground up, they borrow from the established respect or influence of someone else. This strategy relies on the value of association, using the positive image of others to boost their own. For example, imagine a new startup that partners with a well-known company to co-brand a product. Even though the startup itself has little history or recognition, the association with the established brand boosts its credibility. Consumers might assume the startup's product is of higher quality or more trustworthy, simply because it is linked to a respected company. The startup is effectively borrowing the reputation of the larger company to gain its own credibility. In a professional setting, reputation arbitrage can happen when someone joins a prestigious team or organization. A job candidate might land a position at a well-regarded firm and use that as a stepping stone to build their own reputation. Even though they may not yet have significant accomplishments on their own, being part of the respected organization lends them an air of expertise and trustworthiness. Colleagues and clients may assume that their work and opinions carry weight simply because they are associated with the firm's strong reputation. In social circles, reputation arbitrage can be seen when a person attaches themselves to a well-liked or influential group. They might align themselves with people who have established reputations for being successful or influential, hoping that the positive attention and respect those individuals receive will extend to them. By closely associating with the group, they increase their own social standing without putting in the same effort or time to build their own reputation. Reputation arbitrage is a way of gaining respect or influence without having to earn it from scratch. By linking themselves to those with already established credibility, individuals can shortcut the traditional process of reputation building and gain the benefits of association. This can be a powerful tool, but it requires careful handling to ensure that the borrowed prestige doesn't backfire or fall apart. Cultural code switching is when someone changes their behavior, language, or appearance to fit in with different social or cultural groups. This adaptation helps them navigate various environments, allowing them to connect with people from different backgrounds. Code switching often happens unconsciously, as individuals adjust their style to match the expectations of the group they are interacting with. For example, imagine a person who works in a formal office environment where they use professional language and adhere to a specific dress code. When they meet friends from their neighborhood, they might switch to more casual language and wear different clothing that fits the social norms of that group. The change in behavior and appearance helps them blend in and be more relatable to their friends, while maintaining professionalism at work. In a classroom, students might engage in code switching when talking to teachers versus talking to their peers. A student might speak more formally and use academic language when interacting with a teacher, but switch to a more relaxed colloquial style with their classmates. This switch helps them maintain respect and authority in the classroom while fitting into the social dynamics of their peer group. In multicultural communities, cultural code switching is often a tool for smooth communication. A person might speak one language at home and another in public or work settings. They might use different expressions or adapt their accent to sound more like the people around them, helping them feel included and understood. The ability to switch between cultural contexts allows individuals to navigate social situations with ease and build stronger connections across diverse groups. Cultural code switching is about adjusting to the social expectations and norms of the groups you interact with. It helps people communicate effectively and maintain relationships in different environments, all while managing their personal identity across varying cultural contexts. Humor as a social weapon is when people use jokes or funny comments to either strengthen relationships or weaken others. It can bring people together, build trust, and create bonds, but it can also be used to undermine someone's confidence or make them feel excluded. The way humor is used can shape social dynamics, either in a positive or negative direction. For example, in a group of friends, humor can help create a sense of unity. When someone makes a light-hearted joke that everyone understands, it can break the ice and make everyone feel included. If someone makes fun of a shared experience, like a funny incident that happened at work, the group can laugh together, strengthening their connection. The joke isn't meant to hurt anyone. Instead, it's about finding common ground and enjoying each other's company. On the other hand, humor can also be used to put others down. If someone uses sarcasm or makes jokes at another person's expense, it can make that person feel small or less valued. For example, if someone constantly makes jokes about a coworker's mistake or appearance, it can create an uncomfortable atmosphere. While the person making the jokes may think it's harmless, the target of the humor might feel undermined or alienated. This type of humor can erode trust and create divisions within a group. In workplace settings, humor can be a powerful tool for influencing people. A manager might use humor to connect with their team, making them feel at ease and more willing to share ideas. But if the humor is used to belittle someone or highlight their weaknesses, it can damage relationships and reduce morale. The key is understanding when and how humor can be used to enhance communication without crossing boundaries. Humor as a social weapon depends on the intent behind it and how it is received. It can strengthen bonds or cause harm, depending on how it is used in the context of a relationship or group. Frame control is when someone influences how a conversation or situation is perceived by shaping the way it is framed. It's about setting the context for how others see a particular issue, making it easier to guide the direction of the discussion. By controlling the frame, a person can make certain points stand out while downplaying others, influencing how the conversation unfolds. For example, imagine two colleagues discussing a project. One person might start the conversation by framing the project as an exciting opportunity to innovate, focusing on the potential for success. This sets a positive frame for the discussion, making it easier to steer the conversation toward optimistic solutions. By presenting the project this way, they influence how others view the challenge, making it seem like a chance for growth rather than a difficult task. In contrast, if someone frames the same project by focusing on its difficulties or the risks involved, the conversation might shift to problem-solving and caution. The frame here makes the project seem like a burden, which can make others more reluctant to engage or take on responsibility. In a negotiation, frame control is crucial for gaining the upper hand. If one party starts by framing the deal in terms of what they stand to gain, they set the tone for the negotiation. For example, they might say, "This partnership will greatly increase our market reach," highlighting the benefits. By focusing on the positives, they guide the discussion in a direction where the other party sees the deal as advantageous and is more likely to agree to the terms. Frame control also shows up in personal conversations. If a person is defending their actions, they might frame the situation by saying, "I made that decision because it was the best choice given the circumstances," rather than focusing on any mistakes they might have made. By shifting the frame, they make their decision look more justified and less open to criticism. How a conversation is framed shapes the outcomes. Whether in a workplace, negotiation, or personal discussion, frame control gives a person the power to guide the direction of the conversation, emphasizing their desired points and downplaying those they want to avoid. Emotional contagion is the process of intentionally spreading moods or feelings to influence others. It involves transferring one's emotions to others, shaping the mood of a group or individual. This can be done consciously or unconsciously, but when done intentionally, it can be a powerful tool for creating a specific atmosphere or guiding how people feel and react. For example, imagine a manager who walks into a meeting with a confident, upbeat attitude. By displaying positivity, they encourage the team to feel more optimistic about the project. The energy in the room shifts, and others start to feel more motivated, even if they were initially unsure or stressed. The manager's emotional state spreads to the team, influencing how they approach the task. The mood set by the leader guides the team's actions and outlook. In a social setting, emotional contagion can be used to create a desired atmosphere. For instance, at a family gathering, One person might begin telling a funny story and laughing. This positive mood can spread quickly, and soon everyone is laughing together. The initial emotion, the joy from one person, spreads throughout the group, creating a shared sense of happiness. This kind of mood transfer is natural, but it can also be consciously driven by the person who starts the story. In a more strategic setting, a salesperson might use emotional contagion to influence a customer's feelings about a product. By being warm, enthusiastic, and genuinely excited about what they're selling, the salesperson's positive energy can make the customer feel more eager to buy. The customer's mood shifts in response to the salesperson's emotions, increasing the likelihood of a sale. Emotional contagion can also work in reverse. If someone enters a room with a negative or anxious mood, that emotion can spread to others, creating a sense of discomfort or tension. In these cases, it's important to recognize how moods can shift group dynamics and to be mindful of how one's emotional state can influence others. By understanding emotional contagion, people can use their emotions to influence the mood and actions of those around them, whether for positive or negative effects. Unconditional altruism is the act of giving without expecting anything in return. It's about offering help, resources, or support because it's the right thing to do, not because it will lead to personal gain or recognition. This form of giving comes from a genuine desire to improve the well-being of others, with no strings attached. For example, a person might donate money to a charity without expecting a thank you or any form of acknowledgement. They do it because they believe in the cause and want to make a positive impact, not for the reward or recognition they might receive. The act itself is about the benefit it brings to others, not what it does for them personally. In everyday life, unconditional altruism can be seen when someone helps a neighbor with a task, like carrying groceries or shoveling snow from their driveway. The helper doesn't expect anything in return, nor do they seek recognition. They simply offer assistance because they see a need and are willing to lend a hand. Their motivation comes from the satisfaction of helping, not from any external reward. In relationships, unconditional altruism can be found when a friend or family member supports someone through a difficult time without asking for anything in return. For instance, someone might take time off work to care for a sick relative, not because they expect gratitude, but because they feel it's their responsibility to help in a time of need. The act of caring is driven by empathy and love, not by the expectation of receiving something in return. Unconditional altruism creates bonds of trust and goodwill. When someone gives without expecting something back, it helps build a sense of community and mutual respect. It's not about personal gain, but about making the world a little better through selfless actions. This type of giving can have a lasting positive effect on both the giver and the receiver, as it fosters a culture of genuine care and support. Conflict de-escalation is the process of reducing tension in a situation where emotions are high and aggression may be building. It involves using calm, thoughtful responses to diffuse potential hostility without making the situation worse. The goal is to prevent the conflict from escalating further and to guide it toward a more peaceful resolution. For example, imagine two co-workers arguing over the division of work. One is becoming increasingly frustrated and is raising their voice. Rather than matching the aggression with a defensive or equally loud response, the other co-worker might take a step back, speak in a calm tone, and say, "I understand you're frustrated. Let's talk through this so we can find a solution that works for both of us." By acknowledging the other person's feelings and offering a more balanced response, they help lower the intensity of the argument and open the door for a more constructive conversation. In a family setting, conflict de-escalation can be seen when a parent handles a disagreement between siblings. If one child is yelling at the other over a small issue, the parent might approach them calmly, saying, "I can see you're upset, but we need to talk about this without shouting." By setting a calm tone and guiding the conversation, the parent helps both children address the issue more calmly and avoid letting the argument spiral out of control. In customer service, conflict de-escalation is often a key skill. If a customer is angry about a product or service, a representative can use calm language and empathetic listening to address the concern. Instead of becoming defensive or dismissive, the representative might say, "I understand why you're upset, and I want to help resolve this." By staying composed and focusing on finding a solution, the representative helps calm the customer down and guides the conversation toward a positive outcome. Conflict de-escalation is about staying calm, acknowledging emotions, and steering conversations away from confrontation. It requires patience, empathy, and the ability to guide the situation toward a peaceful resolution without adding fuel to the fire. Influence without authority is the ability to lead or guide others without holding a formal position of power. It involves shaping decisions, behaviors, or attitudes through persuasion, trust, and respect, rather than through direct control or authority. People who lead in this way are often able to create change by building relationships and fostering cooperation, rather than relying on their title or rank. For example, in a workplace, a team member who doesn't have a managerial role might still influence the direction of a project. They might offer helpful suggestions during meetings or provide support to colleagues when they need assistance. Through their expertise and willingness to collaborate, others may begin to look to them for advice or guidance. This person doesn't need a formal title to lead. They gain influence by demonstrating competence, reliability, and a willingness to help. In social settings, influence without authority can be seen when someone has the ability to bring people together and guide group decisions. For instance, a friend in a group might not have any formal leadership role, but they might influence where the group goes for dinner or what activity they do by suggesting ideas that appeal to everyone. They know how to connect with people and make everyone feel heard, which naturally draws others to follow their lead. In a classroom, a student might influence their peers without being the teacher or a class president. They may help others understand difficult concepts, offer support when needed, and create an atmosphere of collaboration. The teacher and classmates see them as a leader, not because of any official title, but because of their ability to positively impact the group and drive progress. Influence without authority comes from building trust and demonstrating value to others. It's about leading through respect and connection rather than through control. When people feel they can trust someone and that their input matters, they are more likely to follow their guidance, even without formal authority. This type of leadership relies on indirect methods, offering support, sharing knowledge, and creating a sense of unity to inspire others. Vision casting is about sharing a clear picture of a desired future and inspiring others to work toward it. It involves painting a vivid, hopeful image of what could be, then guiding others to see how they can play a part in making that future a reality. It's not just about telling people what to do, but about motivating them by showing them the potential impact of their efforts. For example, imagine a leader in a community organization. Instead of simply outlining tasks, they might say, "Imagine our neighborhood with clean streets, thriving local businesses, and a strong sense of community where everyone feels connected." This vision casts an inspiring picture of what the future could look like. The leader doesn't just focus on what needs to be done, but on the bigger impact of those efforts, making people feel motivated to take action. In a workplace, vision casting can be seen when a manager or CEO describes where the company could be in 5 or 10 years. They might talk about the growth, the challenges they'll overcome, and the difference they'll make in the industry. This kind of vision inspires employees, giving them a sense of purpose and excitement about their roles in achieving the company's goals. Instead of focusing solely on day-to-day tasks, the manager connects those tasks to a larger vision, making employees feel like they're part of something meaningful. In a classroom, a teacher might cast a vision by saying, "Think about what you can accomplish in the next year, how much you can grow as learners, how much you can contribute to the class." By framing the future in a way that feels attainable and exciting, the teacher helps students see the potential in their own efforts and creates a shared goal to work toward. Vision casting is about more than just setting goals. It's about creating a sense of possibility, inspiring others to take steps toward a future they can believe in. By painting a clear, motivating picture of what lies ahead, leaders guide others to act with purpose and energy. Hidden power dynamics awareness is the ability to recognize and understand the unspoken hierarchies that influence relationships and decision-making. These dynamics aren't always obvious, but can strongly shape how people interact and what gets decided. Being aware of these hidden power structures allows people to navigate situations more effectively and understand the subtle ways in which power is distributed, even if it's not openly acknowledged. For example, in a workplace, the official hierarchy may show that one person holds a senior position, but there may be informal power dynamics at play. Perhaps a senior employee who isn't in charge of the team still influences decisions because they have deep experience or strong connections with others. Recognizing this hidden influence can help a newer team member understand why certain decisions are made and how to work with or around these informal power structures. In social settings, hidden power dynamics often appear in how people interact based on their social standing or influence, even if no one explicitly acknowledges it. For instance, at a party, a person may not hold the loudest voice or the highest social position, but could still control the flow of conversation through subtle cues like who they talk to, when they speak, or how others respond to them. Being aware of this can help others understand why certain people are included in conversations while others are left out, or why some opinions are prioritized over others. In family relationships, hidden power dynamics can shape how decisions are made, even if everyone technically has an equal say. For example, a parent might not always make the final decision, but their influence over the children's opinions or the way they handle conflict may give them more control in practice. Recognizing these dynamics helps family members understand the unspoken rules that govern their interactions and navigate them more effectively. Hidden power dynamics awareness isn't about pointing out inequalities or focusing on power struggles, but about understanding how unseen forces affect how people act and make decisions. By recognizing these hidden layers, people can act more intentionally, whether they're in a work setting, a social gathering, or at home, ensuring their actions align with their understanding of the unspoken influences around them. Trust engineering is the process of intentionally building trust by creating reliability loops, consistent actions that foster confidence and dependability over time. It's about setting up behaviors and systems that allow others to see you as reliable, making it easier for them to trust you and work with you. Trust isn't built overnight, but through a pattern of actions that show you follow through, communicate openly, and act consistently. For example, in a workplace, a manager can build trust with their team by consistently meeting deadlines and keeping promises. If the manager says they will deliver a report by a certain date, and they do, it shows the team they can rely on them. Over time, the team begins to trust that the manager will continue to meet expectations. This reliability becomes a loop where the manager's consistent actions build more trust, which in turn encourages the team to be more open and cooperative. In personal relationships, trust engineering happens when people show that they are dependable and honest. If a friend always shows up when they say they will, keeps personal details confidential, and is consistent in their behavior, trust is established. The more they follow through on commitments, the more the other person feels secure in their presence. This creates a loop where both people feel safe and confident in the relationship, encouraging further trust-building actions. In business, trust engineering can be seen when a company consistently delivers high-quality products or services. Customers who receive excellent service every time are more likely to return and recommend the company to others. Each positive experience builds trust, creating a cycle where the company's reputation grows and customers keep coming back, further reinforcing the company's reliability. Trust engineering is about creating systems where trust is built and reinforced through actions, not words alone. When people see that you are consistent and reliable, they are more likely to trust you, and this trust leads to stronger relationships, more opportunities, and greater cooperation. Through these reliability loops, trust grows naturally, benefiting both personal and professional interactions. Symbolic leadership is about leading in a way that reflects values larger than oneself. It's not just about the actions you take, but how you represent something greater, like a set of principles, a mission, or a cause. When someone embraces symbolic leadership, their behavior, words, and decisions carry meaning that goes beyond their individual goals. They inspire others by embodying ideals that others can connect with and rally behind. For example, a political leader who stands for justice may spend years advocating for equal rights. They may face personal challenges and setbacks, but by consistently pushing for policies that support fairness, they show others what they value. Their leadership isn't just about their political career, it's about representing the broader cause of justice. People follow them not just because of their position, but because they stand for something that matters on a deeper level. In a company, a CEO might practice symbolic leadership by emphasizing integrity and innovation. Even though their role involves making business decisions, their actions such as prioritizing ethical practices, or encouraging creativity demonstrate values that inspire employees. The CEO's leadership is symbolic of the company's commitment to doing the right thing and fostering new ideas. Employees are more motivated to follow because they see the company as a place where values are lived out, not just talked about. In a community setting, symbolic leadership can be seen when a local leader represents the hopes and needs of the people they serve. A community organizer might not have formal power, but becomes a leader by representing the collective will of the community. Their actions reflect the values of unity, support, and progress, helping the community come together and work towards shared goals. Symbolic leadership is about setting an example that others want to follow. It's not just what you do, but how you make others feel connected to something bigger. Through your actions, you become a symbol of values that inspire and guide those around you. Sacrificial acts for a group are when someone gives up something personal or endures hardship for the benefit of others. These acts often strengthen bonds within the group, as they demonstrate a deep commitment to the well-being of others. By making a personal sacrifice, the individual shows that they prioritize the group's needs over their own, which can create a sense of trust, loyalty, and mutual respect among members. For example, a team leader might take on extra work to ensure the team meets a deadline, even if it means sacrificing their own time and energy. By doing this, the leader shows that they are willing to put the team's success first, which inspires others to do the same. The team, seeing the leader's dedication, might work harder and feel more connected to the group's shared goals. In a family, a parent might make a personal sacrifice to support their children. For instance, a parent might work long hours to provide for their family, giving up their own personal time or leisure to ensure that their children have what they need. This act of sacrifice strengthens the family bond, as the children recognize the parent's dedication and feel a deep sense of gratitude and connection. In a community, sacrificial acts can be seen when individuals give up something valuable to help others. A person might donate a large portion of their income to a charity or volunteer their time to help people in need, even if it means personal loss. Their willingness to make these sacrifices shows others that they care deeply about the community, and this can inspire others to act in kind. Sacrificial acts create a sense of shared responsibility and reinforce the idea that the well-being of the group is a priority. By giving up something personal for the greater good, individuals not only help the group succeed, but also deepen their own sense of belonging and connection. These acts often lead to stronger, more supportive relationships within the group. Shadow integration is the process of acknowledging and accepting the darker parts of ourselves, the impulses or traits we may normally try to hide or deny. These parts of our personality are often seen as negative or undesirable, but shadow integration is about recognizing them consciously and understanding how they shape our actions and decisions. Instead of repressing these aspects, we learn to accept them and use them in a healthy, constructive way. For example, a person who feels anger often might typically suppress it, believing that it's wrong to feel or show anger. However, through shadow integration, they can recognize their anger, understand its source, and express it in a way that doesn't harm others. This doesn't mean giving in to anger, but rather understanding its role and finding a way to channel it productively, like setting boundaries or advocating for themselves more effectively. By accepting the darker impulse of anger, rather than suppressing it, they gain more control over how it impacts their behavior. In a workplace setting, shadow integration might occur when a leader recognizes their own competitive nature. Rather than ignoring this trait, they acknowledge it and use it to motivate themselves and their team, pushing for excellence without letting the competition become destructive. The key here is understanding the darker impulse of competition and using it to fuel positive outcomes rather than letting it lead to unnecessary conflict or unethical behavior. In personal relationships, shadow integration can involve recognizing and accepting jealousy or insecurity. Instead of projecting these feelings onto others or avoiding them, a person might recognize that these emotions stem from fear of loss or a lack of self-confidence. By accepting these feelings and understanding their origins, the person can work through them and communicate more openly with their partner, building trust and improving the relationship. Shadow integration isn't about eliminating the darker parts of our personality, but about bringing them into the light so that we can understand them and use them wisely. By accepting these aspects consciously, we become more whole, reducing the internal conflict that arises from denying parts of ourselves. It allows us to act with more awareness and control, ultimately leading to healthier, more authentic interactions with ourselves and others. Radical honesty is about living without deception and being completely open and truthful in all interactions. It involves telling the truth, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable, rather than hiding behind half-truths or omissions. Radical honesty encourages full transparency in communication. The goal is to create more genuine connections and remove the barriers that dishonesty builds between people. For example, in a relationship, practicing radical honesty might mean sharing your true feelings about an issue instead of pretending everything is fine. If one partner is upset but says nothing to avoid conflict, the tension often builds and creates distance. By being radically honest, they express their concerns directly, saying something like, "I feel upset because I think we haven't been spending enough time together." While this may initially be uncomfortable, it opens the door for a real conversation and deeper understanding. In the workplace, radical honesty can be seen when an employee gives honest feedback to a colleague or manager, even if it's hard to say. For instance, if a team member isn't pulling their weight, instead of letting frustration build, someone practicing radical honesty might say, "I've noticed you've been missing deadlines, and it's affecting the team's progress." This direct approach helps address problems early, leading to solutions rather than allowing issues to fester and grow. Radical honesty also applies to self-awareness. It's about acknowledging your own feelings and behaviors, even when they're difficult to face. For example, someone who feels jealous of a colleague's success might admit, "I feel jealous and I need to work on my own sense of self-worth." Instead of pretending these feelings don't exist, they address them openly, allowing for personal growth. Living with radical honesty can be challenging because it requires vulnerability and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. However, it can lead to deeper, more authentic relationships with others and a clearer, more honest relationship with oneself. When we stop deceiving ourselves or others, we create a space where trust and understanding can flourish. Paradox embracing is the ability to accept and live with contradictions without feeling the need to resolve them. It's about understanding that some situations, beliefs, or feelings can coexist even if they seem to conflict with each other. Rather than forcing things to align or trying to make everything fit neatly into one perspective, embracing paradox means accepting complexity and holding space for opposing truths at the same time. For example, a person might feel both fear and excitement before starting a new job. On the one hand, they're nervous about the unknown and worried about their ability to succeed. On the other hand, they're excited about the opportunity to learn and grow. Instead of choosing to focus on one feeling over the other, paradox embracing involves accepting both emotions as part of the experience. This allows the person to move forward without being overwhelmed by internal conflict. In relationships, paradox embracing can be seen when a person acknowledges that they can love someone deeply while also feeling frustration or resentment toward them. These emotions may seem contradictory, but they can coexist. Rather than trying to push aside negative feelings or pretending everything is perfect, the person accepts both the love and the frustration, understanding that relationships are complex and multidimensional. In the workplace, paradox embracing can be helpful when dealing with conflicting goals or values. For instance, a leader might need to balance short-term results with long-term vision. There might be pressure to deliver immediate outcomes, but the leader also understands the importance of investing in future growth. Instead of forcing one priority to overshadow the other, they embrace both, managing the tension between immediate action and long-term planning. Embracing paradox means not forcing clarity or resolution, but accepting that life is often messy and contradictory. It requires patience and self-awareness to live with complexity, but it also allows for a more nuanced and balanced approach to decision-making and relationships. By holding contradictions in harmony, individuals can navigate challenges with a greater sense of ease and acceptance. Meta-Cognition is the process of thinking about your own thinking. It involves stepping back and observing how you approach problems, make decisions, and understand things. Instead of just reacting or following automatic patterns, Meta-Cognition allows you to reflect on your thought process, helping you make better choices and improve how you think. For example, imagine you're solving a math problem. Instead of just jumping straight to the answer, you pause and think about how you approach the problem. Are you relying on a specific formula? Do you notice patterns in the numbers? By thinking about your approach, you can identify if there's a better method to solve the problem or recognize areas where you might be making assumptions. This reflection makes the thinking process more conscious and intentional. In everyday life, metacognition can help with decision-making. Suppose you're about to make an important decision, like buying a car. Instead of focusing solely on the features you like, you step back and consider why those features are important to you. Are you influenced by others' opinions? Do you value comfort more than price? By understanding your thinking process, you can make a more thoughtful and informed choice that aligns with your true needs. In learning, metacognition can be used to improve study habits. For instance, if a student struggles to understand a concept, they might reflect on how they're learning. Are they reading passively, or are they actively engaging with the material? Are they distracted or focused? By thinking about how they're studying, the student can adjust their methods, perhaps by using different resources or taking breaks to improve focus. Metacognition is about becoming aware of how you think. It helps you identify patterns, assumptions, and biases in your thought process. This self-awareness allows you to think more critically and make better decisions, whether you're solving problems, learning new things, or simply reflecting on your actions. Systems thinking is the ability to see the bigger picture by recognizing how different parts of a system influence each other. It's about understanding that events and behaviors are not isolated, but part of a web of interconnected feedback loops. In systems thinking, change in one area can cause a ripple effect, impacting other areas in ways that might not be immediately obvious. For example, imagine a company facing low employee morale. Instead of just focusing on the immediate cause, such as a recent policy change, systems thinking encourages looking at the entire environment. Perhaps the lack of morale is linked to long-term issues like unclear communication or unrealistic expectations. The solution may involve addressing these deeper systemic issues rather than simply offering quick fixes like temporary incentives. By understanding the broader context, the company can create lasting improvements. In environmental issues, systems thinking is important for understanding the effects of human actions on nature. For instance, deforestation in one area doesn't just reduce trees, it disrupts local ecosystems, affects the climate, and impacts communities that depend on the land. The cause and effect relationships extend far beyond the trees that are cut down. A systems thinker would recognize that solving the issue requires more than stopping logging. It requires addressing the root causes and considering the interconnected effects on the ecosystem. In personal life, systems thinking can be used to improve habits or solve problems. Suppose someone is trying to lose weight. If they only focus on reducing calories, they might miss other factors such as stress, sleep, or exercise. By looking at the full system, how diet, physical activity, and mental health work together, they can develop a more effective, sustainable plan for reaching their goals. Systems thinking helps people understand that everything is connected. It encourages a holistic approach to problems, where the focus is on long-term solutions that consider all the variables, rather than quick fixes that address only part of the issue. By seeing feedback loops and complexity, systems thinking offers a more complete understanding of the world around us. Forgiveness without condition is the act of letting go of past harm, regardless of whether the other person has apologized or changed. It's about choosing to release the hurt and resentment, freeing yourself from the emotional burden of holding on to negative feelings. This form of forgiveness doesn't depend on the other person's actions or behavior, but comes from within, as a way of healing and moving forward. For example, imagine someone has been betrayed by a close friend. The natural response might be anger or a desire for revenge. However, forgiveness without condition means choosing to let go of those emotions, even if the friend hasn't expressed regret. It's not about excusing the harm or forgetting what happened, but about releasing the hold that anger or hurt has on you. By forgiving without condition, you take back control of your own emotions, rather than letting past events continue to influence your well-being. In family dynamics, forgiveness without condition can show up when a family member has caused deep pain, but you choose to forgive them, even without an apology. Maybe a parent wasn't there when you needed them, or a sibling hurt you with harsh words. Forgiveness in this case is about freeing yourself from the weight of bitterness, allowing you to move forward without letting the past dictate how you feel in the present. It's not about condoning their actions, but choosing peace over resentment. In a work environment, someone might feel wronged by a colleague's actions, perhaps taking credit for their work or not following through on a commitment. Forgiving without condition in this scenario doesn't mean ignoring the wrong, but choosing to let go of the resentment so that it doesn't affect future interactions. By doing so, you free yourself from carrying unnecessary emotional weight and can focus on moving forward, whether that's building a more professional relationship or simply letting go of the past for your own peace of mind. Forgiveness without condition is a powerful tool for emotional freedom. It's about releasing the past and choosing not to let it define how you feel or act today. Detachment from ego is the ability to act without being driven by self-interest, pride, or the need for validation. It involves shifting focus away from personal gain and instead prioritizing the needs of others or the situation at hand. When detached from ego, decisions are made based on what is best for the greater good rather than to serve one's own image or desires. For example, imagine a team leader making a decision on a project. Instead of choosing the option that would make them look good or give them credit, they focus on what will benefit the team and the project's success. The leader might give credit to the team for a job well done, even if their own contributions were significant. By doing this, the leader acts without seeking personal recognition or reward, showing true detachment from the ego. In personal relationships, detachment from ego can be seen when someone listens without interrupting, not focusing on their own thoughts or responses, but fully understanding the other person's perspective. If a friend is upset and shares their feelings, someone detached from ego will focus on supporting them, not on how they appear or how they can make themselves look better in the process. They aren't thinking about defending themselves or proving they are right, but are simply present for the other person. In the workplace, detachment from ego might show up when a colleague steps aside to allow others to shine. They may have worked hard on a project, but are content to let others take the spotlight, as they understand that their worth isn't tied to personal accolades or attention. They focus on the success of the team rather than their individual role in that success. Detachment from ego doesn't mean neglecting one's own needs or values, but rather not being ruled by the desire for approval or status. It's about acting from a place of balance, where decisions are guided by purpose and the well-being of others, rather than by self-centered motives. By letting go of the need to feed the ego, a person can live with more authenticity and create deeper, more meaningful connections with others. Non-duality awareness is the understanding that the distinction between self and other is an illusion. It's about seeing that all things are connected, and the boundaries we create between ourselves and the world around us are not as clear-cut as we often believe. This awareness helps dissolve the separation between me and you, allowing for a deeper sense of unity and interconnectedness. For example, imagine a person who is interacting with a stranger on the street. Normally, they might view themselves as separate from the other person, perhaps even judging or categorizing them based on appearance or behavior. But with non-duality awareness, the person sees that they are not separate from this stranger. They recognize that the same energy, the same basic human experience flows through both of them. Instead of seeing the stranger as an other, they see them as part of a larger whole. This shift in perception creates empathy and a deeper connection. In a workplace, non-duality awareness might show up when a person shifts their focus from competing against co-workers to seeing that everyone is working toward the same goal. Instead of viewing success as something that only benefits themselves, they understand that the success of the team benefits everyone. The boundaries between me and them fade, creating a more cooperative and harmonious environment. Rather than focusing on individual achievements, people start to work more effectively together, recognizing the shared purpose that binds them. In personal relationships, non-duality awareness can help overcome feelings of division or conflict. When someone is upset with a partner, they might initially feel as though the problem lies with the other person. But with non-duality awareness, they realize that their reactions are connected to their own perceptions and experiences, and that understanding the other person's feelings is part of understanding themselves. This deeper awareness can foster more compassion and understanding as the lines between self and other begin to blur. Non-duality awareness invites a shift in perspective that removes the walls we often build between ourselves and others. By recognizing that everything is interconnected, we begin to see the world more holistically, with less judgment and more acceptance. This awareness doesn't eliminate differences, but helps us move beyond the separations we impose, allowing us to experience a greater sense of unity and compassion. Collective consciousness participation is about shifting from individual thinking to a group-oriented mindset. It's the ability to think as we rather than I, where the focus is on the well-being and goals of the group as a whole, not just personal interests. This way of thinking encourages collaboration and unity, where each person's actions and decisions are considered in the context of the group's needs. For example, in a community project, instead of each person thinking about how they can stand out or what benefits they will get, participants start thinking about how their efforts contribute to the greater good. They might consider how their actions will impact the group and how working together can lead to shared success. If one person is in charge of organizing, they may look for feedback from everyone involved, valuing collective input, and working to make decisions that benefit the entire group rather than just a few. In a workplace setting, collective consciousness participation can be seen when a team works together to solve a problem. Instead of competing or focusing on individual achievements, the team thinks of the problem as something that affects everyone, and the solution is one they all share responsibility for. They brainstorm as a group, share ideas, and support each other's contributions, always keeping in mind the success of the team over individual recognition. In social movements, this form of participation is crucial. When people unite for a common cause, like fighting for climate change or social justice, they move beyond their own personal beliefs and desires. The collective thinking becomes about the greater good, where everyone works toward the same goal, understanding that individual efforts are part of a larger shared purpose. People begin to see themselves as part of a community, where success depends on everyone's involvement and commitment. By participating in collective consciousness, people move from a mindset focused solely on themselves to one that is focused on the community, the group, or the collective. This shift leads to stronger bonds, more effective collaboration, and a greater sense of shared responsibility. It's about thinking as we and working together to create a more connected and harmonious environment. Universal compassion is the practice of extending care and kindness to all beings without discrimination. It's about recognizing the value in every living creature, whether human or animal, and offering support and empathy regardless of their background or circumstances. This form of compassion is not limited to those who are close to us or those we understand. It's a broad, all-encompassing sense of care that seeks to alleviate suffering and promote well-being for everyone. For example, imagine someone seeing a person in need, whether they are struggling with their health, their emotions, or their circumstances. Instead of turning away or making judgments, universal compassion would guide that person to offer help or show understanding, no matter their background. They might offer a kind word, lend a hand, or simply acknowledge the other person's feelings. The key is that this kindness is not earned, but given freely because of the recognition that everyone deserves care. In nature, universal compassion can be seen when people treat animals with respect. Instead of exploiting animals for entertainment or resources, someone practicing universal compassion might advocate for animal rights, support conservation efforts, or simply ensure they treat animals with care and kindness in their daily life. They recognize that animals, like humans, are part of the world and deserve to be treated with dignity and compassion. In a community, universal compassion may show up when people work to support each other, regardless of their social standing. A person might reach out to a neighbor in need, even if they don't know them well. They may offer food to someone who is struggling or provide assistance without expecting anything in return. It's not about who deserves it most, but about recognizing the shared human experience and offering help when it's needed. Universal compassion asks us to look beyond ourselves and see the world through a lens of kindness and empathy for all. It's about fostering connections, not based on similarities, but on shared humanity and the inherent worth of every being. By practicing universal compassion, we create a world where care, kindness, and empathy are extended to all, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Self-transcendence is the act of moving beyond personal identity and pursuing goals that are bigger than oneself. It's about looking beyond individual desires, achievements, and needs to connect with something larger, whether that's contributing to a cause, helping others, or working toward the collective good. This form of growth allows individuals to find purpose and meaning that isn't centered on their own ego or self-interest. For example, A person who dedicates themselves to helping improve their community may do so not for recognition, but because they feel deeply connected to the well-being of others. They may spend hours volunteering, working on projects that don't bring them any direct personal gain, but they do it because they believe in the importance of helping those in need. In this case, the person's goals are no longer centered on personal success, but on creating positive change in the world around them. In the workplace, someone practicing self-transcendence may focus on the success of their team or company rather than their own promotion or recognition. A team member might work toward group success, mentoring others and collaborating to reach common goals. They don't view their value solely through the lens of personal achievements, but through the impact they have on the larger group. Their actions reflect a desire to contribute to the collective success rather than simply advancing themselves. In relationships, self-transcendence can be seen when someone puts the needs of others before their own, not out of obligation, but because they deeply care about the well-being of others. A parent who sacrifices personal time to nurture their child's growth, or a friend who offers support during tough times without expecting anything in return, shows self-transcendence. Their sense of purpose is rooted in love and connection rather than personal gain. Self-transcendence is about living with a broader vision. It encourages a shift from a self-centered perspective to one that seeks to impact the world in a meaningful way. It allows individuals to find fulfillment, not through personal accomplishments, but through the positive difference they make in the lives of others and in the world around them. Archetypal embodiment is the act of living in a way that reflects timeless roles or symbols, such as a mentor, healer, or leader. These roles carry deep meaning, often representing universal qualities that resonate with others. When a person embodies an archetype, they are not just playing a part, but living out values and behaviors that have a lasting impact on those around them. It's about becoming a living example of the qualities those archetypes represent. For example, a mentor archetype is someone who offers guidance, wisdom, and support to others. A mentor doesn't just give advice in passing, but embodies qualities like patience, experience, and the desire to help others grow. They might spend time with a young person, sharing their knowledge and offering direction, not because it's required, but because they see value in helping that person become their best self. The mentor embodies the archetype by consistently living out these qualities, offering support and encouragement wherever they can. A healer archetype can be seen in someone who not only tends to physical wounds, but also cares for emotional or spiritual well-being. A doctor might heal with medicine, but a healer goes beyond that, offering comfort, understanding, and compassion. This person doesn't simply perform tasks, they live in a way that others see as nurturing and restorative. Whether through their work or personal life, they embody the archetype of healing by being a source of care and empathy, helping to restore balance and health in others. In leadership, a person who embodies the archetype of a wise leader doesn't just make decisions from a position of power, they carry the values of fairness, integrity, and vision. They guide others not through force, but by inspiring respect and trust. Their actions reflect the archetype of leadership, showing others how to act with honor and purpose. Archetypal embodiment isn't about trying to fit into a role, it's about living authentically in a way that brings to life the values these archetypes represent. By embodying these symbols, a person can make a deep and lasting impact on others, influencing the world through actions that reflect universal truths. Flow mastery is the state where action and awareness merge into one seamless experience. It's when you are fully immersed in what you're doing, so focused that you lose track of time and everything around you fades away. In this state, there is no separation between thought and action. You are completely in sync with the task at hand. This deep focus allows you to perform at your highest level, effortlessly and with ease. For example, imagine an athlete running a race. When they reach the state of flow, they aren't thinking about their form or trying to push themselves harder. Their movements feel automatic, yet perfectly coordinated. They are fully aware of the race, but they aren't consciously trying to control it. The awareness of their body, the rhythm of their breathing, and the pace of their stride all come together naturally. The result is a performance that feels effortless, even though it's physically demanding. In a creative process, flow mastery might show up when someone is painting, writing, or playing music. An artist deeply immersed in their craft might lose all sense of time. They are not thinking about what they are creating in the conventional sense. They are simply creating, Each stroke of the brush or note on the piano feels part of a natural flow, guided by instinct rather than conscious effort. The action and the awareness are unified, resulting in a piece of work that flows smoothly from start to finish. In everyday life, flow mastery can occur when someone is fully engaged in a conversation or task at work. Instead of worrying about how they appear or what comes next, they are entirely present in the moment. This allows for more meaningful interaction or productive work, as their attention is directed fully toward the task or person in front of them. Flow mastery is about aligning your mind and body with the task at hand, achieving a level of focus that makes the process feel almost effortless. By entering this state, you are able to perform more effectively, with less strain and a deeper connection to what you're doing. Ritual creation is the process of designing meaningful practices for a group, helping them connect with each other and with shared values. These rituals bring structure to experiences, creating moments of reflection, celebration, or collective action. They provide a sense of purpose and unity, reinforcing the identity and cohesion of a group. Rituals often transcend everyday routines, offering a way for members to engage in something larger than themselves. For example, in a workplace, a team might create a ritual to celebrate the completion of a major project. Every time they finish a project, they gather for a small celebration, perhaps a lunch or a brief acknowledgement of everyone's contributions. Over time, this ritual strengthens the bond between team members, making them feel appreciated and united in their efforts. The ritual provides a way for the group to pause, reflect, and celebrate their collective achievement. In families, ritual creation can be seen in simple practices like Sunday dinners or holiday traditions. These routines allow family members to come together, share experiences, and reinforce their connection. A family may have a tradition of telling stories at the dinner table, where everyone shares something from their day or life. This ritual not only strengthens the family bond, but also creates an opportunity for reflection, personal sharing, and connection. In a community, rituals can serve as a way to build a sense of belonging and shared identity. For example, a local neighborhood might create a yearly event where everyone gathers to clean up the area. This ritual not only improves the environment, but also fosters a sense of collective responsibility and pride. Each year, the event becomes more than just a cleanup. It becomes a symbol of the community's commitment to working together for the greater good. Ritual creation helps a group shape its identity by building practices that reflect its values. It provides a way for people to connect on a deeper level, not just through shared tasks but through shared meaning. By creating rituals that resonate with the group's purpose, individuals find a greater sense of belonging and connection. Legacy thinking is about acting with a long-term perspective, focusing on the impact you will leave for future generations. It's the understanding that your actions today can shape the world for those who come after you. Rather than only considering immediate benefits or personal gain, legacy thinking involves planting seeds that will grow and benefit others long after you're gone. For example, a business owner might decide to implement sustainable practices, even if they are costly in the short term. They might choose to invest in eco-friendly materials or reduce waste, not for immediate profit, but with the goal of leaving behind a company that can continue to thrive while respecting the environment. The business owner isn't just thinking about today's success, but about creating a lasting positive impact that future generations will benefit from. In a family setting, legacy thinking can be seen when parents invest in their children's education, not just in terms of academic knowledge, but also in values and skills. They might spend time teaching their children life lessons about kindness, hard work, and integrity, knowing that these lessons will guide them throughout their lives. The parents may not see the full impact of their efforts immediately, but they understand that by planting these seeds, they are contributing to the success and well-being of their children and grandchildren. In the context of a community, legacy thinking could appear when a group of people works together to preserve a local park or historical site. They might fundraise, volunteer, and push for policies that protect the area, knowing that future generations will be able to enjoy and learn from it. Their actions are not driven by immediate rewards but by a vision of a world that continues to offer beauty, history, and opportunities for growth long after they are gone. Legacy thinking shifts the focus from the present moment to a broader, more lasting impact. It's about doing what is right for the future, even when the rewards are not immediate. By thinking in terms of legacy, you contribute to building a foundation that will benefit others, ensuring that your actions have lasting value. Philosophical play is the approach to life where you treat it as a game or a work of art, focusing on the experience rather than the outcome. It's about seeing life as a series of opportunities for exploration and creativity, where the challenges and setbacks are just parts of the journey. By adopting this mindset, you can navigate life with more flexibility and openness, allowing yourself to enjoy the process rather than fixating on specific goals or end results. For example, imagine someone who approaches a new job with the mindset of a game. Rather than stressing about performance reviews or promotions, they see each task as a chance to learn and grow. They might experiment with different ways of solving problems or interacting with co-workers, understanding that mistakes are part of the process and a chance to improve. This playful approach helps reduce the pressure to be perfect and opens up space for innovation and growth. In relationships, philosophical play can be seen when people stop taking themselves too seriously. Instead of worrying about how they come across or trying to control the outcome of interactions, they allow for spontaneity and creativity. For instance, a couple might plan a trip without strict itineraries, embracing the unexpected moments that make the experience memorable. They treat their relationship as something dynamic and evolving, understanding that the ups and downs are part of the shared adventure. In personal growth, philosophical play is about experimenting with different ways of thinking, acting, or being. If someone is facing a difficult situation, they might approach it like a puzzle or challenge to solve, rather than a threat. They might consider different perspectives or strategies, treating each decision as a step in a broader exploration of what life has to offer. This mindset allows for a sense of freedom and reduces the weight of expectations, creating room for enjoyment in the process of living. By embracing philosophical play, life becomes less about achieving specific milestones and more about engaging with the world in a creative, thoughtful way. It's about seeing each moment as part of a larger unfolding story where the journey itself holds meaning and value. Acceptance of mortality is the understanding that life is finite and that our time is limited. It's about fully embracing the reality of death and using that awareness to live more fully in the present. When we accept that life doesn't last forever, we are more likely to focus on what truly matters, rather than getting caught up in distractions or worries that won't make a lasting impact. For example, imagine someone who has just learned that they don't have much time left to live. Instead of retreating into fear or despair, they might choose to spend their time with loved ones, doing things that bring them joy or meaning. They may focus less on accumulating wealth or achievements, and more on relationships and experiences. This kind of acceptance allows them to make the most of the time they have, living with intention and focus. In everyday life, acceptance of mortality can influence how we approach our work and personal goals. Knowing that life is finite encourages a sense of urgency to pursue our passions and make decisions based on what we value most. For instance, someone might choose to leave a job that drains their energy to pursue a career that aligns with their personal interests. The knowledge of life's limited nature can push people to take risks, embrace new opportunities, and prioritize what brings them fulfillment. In relationships, accepting mortality can deepen our connections with others. It can lead to more open, honest conversations and a stronger appreciation for the time spent together. If we accept that the people we love won't always be with us, we might make more of an effort to show appreciation, listen more deeply, and create memories that will last. It reminds us that time with others is precious and irreplaceable. By accepting mortality, we are not only coming to terms with the reality of death, but also allowing it to shape how we live. It encourages us to be more mindful, present, and intentional, making them. Equanimity is the ability to maintain calm and balance, regardless of the circumstances. It's the practice of staying steady in the face of both challenges and successes, without letting emotions take control. When someone has equanimity, they don't react impulsively to stress or joy. Instead, they approach both with the same sense of calm, keeping their composure no matter what life throws at them. For example, imagine a person facing a major setback at work, like losing an important client. Instead of reacting with anger, panic, or frustration, they calmly assess the situation and think about the next steps. They understand that setbacks are part of life, and while the loss is disappointing, it doesn't define their value or determine their future. They maintain focus, working through the challenge without being swayed by their emotions. In a different scenario, someone might receive a significant recognition or promotion at work. Rather than becoming overly excited or letting the achievement inflate their ego, they remain grounded. They acknowledge the accomplishment, but continue to approach their work with the same focus and commitment as before. Equanimity allows them to enjoy the success without letting it disrupt their sense of purpose or shift their mindset too dramatically. In relationships, equanimity is seen when a person doesn't let conflicts or misunderstandings upset their emotional state. If a disagreement arises, they stay calm and approach the situation with a clear mind, listening to the other person without becoming defensive or reactive. This balance creates a more productive environment, where the focus is on resolving the issue rather than letting emotions lead to conflict. Equanimity is about maintaining an inner balance that doesn't fluctuate based on external conditions. It requires practice and awareness, as it's easy to get caught up in the highs and lows of life. But by cultivating this steady mindset, people can navigate life's ups and downs with a sense of peace, responding thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Self-actualization, fullest expression of unique potential. Self-actualization is the process of reaching the fullest expression of one's unique potential. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, not by fitting into any mold, but by embracing what makes you different and fully developing your talents, values, and abilities. This journey is personal, as it focuses on fulfilling the deepest aspirations that come from within. For example, imagine an artist who creates not for fame or money, but to express their innermost thoughts and feelings. They don't worry about what is popular or expected. Instead, they follow their unique vision, creating work that feels authentic to them. This process of self-expression, without concern for external validation, is a form of self-actualization. It's not just about technical skill, but about tapping into what they are meant to share with the world. In a career, self-actualization can be seen when someone chooses a path that aligns with their true passions, rather than pursuing a job solely for security or prestige. A teacher, for instance, might feel most fulfilled when they are not just teaching a curriculum, but also inspiring students to think critically, express themselves, and pursue their own paths. They are not just performing a role, they are living out their purpose, helping others realize their potential while also realizing their own. In personal life, self-actualization might show up when someone decides to live according to their own values and principles, rather than what others expect of them. They may choose a lifestyle that reflects their beliefs about health, relationships, or work-life balance. For instance, someone might leave a high-paying job to start a business that aligns with their personal values, like sustainability or helping others, even if it means taking a financial risk. Self-actualization is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing process of growth. It involves recognizing what is truly important to you and taking actions that reflect that. It's about living authentically and fully embracing all parts of yourself and expressing your unique potential in the world. Enlightenment, dissolution of boundaries, union with whole. Enlightenment is the experience of dissolving the boundaries that separate us from the world and others, leading to a sense of union with everything around us. It's the realization that the divisions we often feel between ourselves and others, between us and nature, or even between mind and body, are illusions. Enlightenment brings a deep understanding that we are all connected, and this understanding shapes how we experience life. For example, imagine someone meditating for hours, seeking peace and clarity. As they reach a state of deep focus, they may begin to feel as though they are no longer separate from their surroundings. They no longer see themselves as an individual isolated from the world. Instead, they experience a sense of oneness with everything: the air they breathe, the ground beneath them, and the people around them. This loss of boundaries, where they no longer see themselves as apart from the universe, is an aspect of enlightenment. In everyday life, enlightenment might show up when someone transcends their personal desires and ego. For instance, a person may be deeply involved in helping others, not because it serves their interests, but because they feel connected to the suffering of others. They see no real separation between their own pain and the pain of others, and this leads them to act with more compassion and understanding. Their sense of self is no longer tied to their individual needs, but extends to the broader well-being of everyone. In relationships, enlightenment might appear when two people experience a deep connection, beyond the roles they play or the differences they have. They no longer see themselves as separate individuals with their own interests, but as two parts of a larger whole. Communication becomes effortless, and understanding flows naturally because they no longer hold on to their separate identities as rigidly. Enlightenment is not about achieving a specific goal, but about realizing the truth that there is no real separation between self and the world. It's the experience of living without the constraints of ego, where the boundaries that often create conflict or misunderstanding dissolve, leaving only a deep sense of unity and peace.